Hey Jess, how's it going?
Hey Dan, it's going okay.
Good. I've been thinking about you. I'm glad to see you. I'm always counting the days, counting the minutes until we get back in front of these microphones to do the podcast so we can catch up and see each other. I miss you during the week. I'm glad we have this time together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I miss you during the week. Okay, I'm kidding. Obviously, I'm joking. I said microphones. We only have one microphone. So I was kidding about that. I'm sorry.
Where is this going?
I don't know. I don't have a... Here's what I'm thinking. Like, maybe every year we kind of take a little break from the bits. So I was just being silly. I'm just being silly because I love you. We're married. We're always together.
Wait, we are?
Yes.
When did this happen?
When I go down hard, and I take everything I've learned and teach myself some disregard.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Hello. As I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted by that clip of the song. I'm just going to take... I started school.
Yeah.
I didn't say that before, but this is what I'm building towards. I started school again. It's very busy. We already have been like lackluster with the bits for the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a break from them. Last time we took a break from the bits, Tim Sullivan called up and was like, I can't believe you actually aren't doing the little comedy bits at the top of the show anymore. And we're like, well, I guess we got to keep doing it for him. We haven't heard from that guy in over almost a year.
Yeah.
So I think we're safe now. We can just do what normal podcasts do and just chit chat at the top of the show and then get into the rest of the episode.
That sounds good. Yeah, Dan's back in school at Cal State. Exciting stuff.
And community college, because there's some requisites that I'm missing, and I need to take them, they're letting me take them while I also start my university degree to get a better accounting degree. This will be my third degree, because I have my film degree, I have
And technically we have two film degrees, because we got an associate's first, and then we got our bachelor's.
So this will be my fourth degree. That's right, because our degree mill film school that we went to, it's like you get a bachelor's degree in 2 years?
Yeah.
By basically going to school
year round,
24 hours a day.
Yeah.
It was where I met you, so I would never want to not go there, but it's a bit of a jip when I want to not go there. Aw. So, anyway, I'm going back to school for another accounting degree, because I have my film bachelor's and I have my accounting associates. And film is a career where your degree doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. You go to school, you get the knowledge, maybe you make some connections, but the degree, nobody cares what your degree is when you apply for film work. When you apply for accounting work, they very much care what your degree actually is. It's one of the fields where your degree actually does matter. They should be just honest, because our parents' generation are always like, the degree matters. They want to see you have initiative, but it's not true for a lot of fields. But then for some of them, it is true. So there should be like an honest list of what fields of work does the degree matter and what fields of work does it not matter. So kids can make informed decisions about whether or not they actually have to go to school. So I wouldn't be going to school reaching the age I'm reaching next year and going back to school again.
That just reminded me that I saw it was on Instagram, but somebody had screen capped the Snickers Twitter, and they had been like, let's face it, you can't ever buy a house. You're never going to be able to have kids. You have no money, and you got a degree in something that you absolutely aren't going to be able to get a job in. Uh-huh. So have a Snickers.
Was that a real tweet that Snickers sent?
Apparently.
Or they made it up fake?
I think it was a real one. I don't know. I didn't investigate.
Well, I mean, the podcast Twitter is following
Snickers.
No, it's following Skittles and Combos, which at the time we did that song, I don't know why I wasn't harassing both of those accounts all that week.
I'm shocked.
Too late. Let's see. Snickers. Did you think Snickers' Twitter handle is the real Snickers? Like someone else got Snickers first?
I don't think so.
Okay. Let's try that.
To be fair, it could be from years ago because sometimes these memes just like make the rounds and then they pop back up on, 20 different.
I mean, it sort of
meme
sounds
things.
fake, to be honest. And making fake Twitters is so easy. Making fake tweets is so easy. Although sometimes I see fake tweets and I'm like, they didn't put any effort into this at all. All you need, take this from me, is like a Twitter account that nobody knows about. It's locked, it's private, and you tweet whatever silly thing you want to tweet, and then you screen cap that, and then you go and you screen cap a tweet from Snickers, and then you stitch those two together. Don't like just put it in some text app and just put the text over unless that's the joke you want it to look bad. If you want to make a fake tweet, do what I do. Oh, there it is.
At Snickers. I don't know. Could be fake, probably fake. Whatever.
It does say it's the U.S. one. This is why people listen to the When I Go Down episode of Relient K, so we can investigate if Snickers really did tweet this angsty 30-year-old thing. I mean, this angsty thing for 30-year-olds.
If I had known it would lead to this deep investigation, I would not have brought it up.
I don't think it's real.
Why are you never like this when I want to talk about true crime, Dan?
Oh, Jessica loves true crime so much. And it depresses me. It depresses me. It's not even like, I don't know. Have we talked about
We have talked about this before.
But it's like, then you told me some really interesting fact about something. Oh, you told me what towns in Texas are like the hotbeds of human trafficking. And the reason she told me is because one of these towns we stopped in on our way driving through Texas this Christmas.
Yeah, Danny was like, oh, I found this great like VHS store that's like way out of the way in the middle of nowhere. And we went
an
at
hour north
night,
of Austin.
And I'm like, Danny, we are absolutely going to die out here.
Well, then she's watching this video and that town turns out to be
one of them.
The hotbeds of human trafficking. And I was like, no, that's interesting. And she's like, I'm sorry I talked to you about all these awful things. I'm like, well, you didn't give me details. It's when Jessica gives me details about this. I don't even want to make the jokes. This woman had this happen. I'm like, I don't need to know.
You are keeping someone's memory and case alive. Yes. And it's a way of like honoring
You're
them
doing that. I don't need to do that.
And bringing their case to light so that hopefully if someone has information...
I just feel it too heavily. I
feel the same thing too. That's why I don't watch the news. I don't watch the news because it's too upsetting. But like, I'll sit here and listen to a true crime podcast. I don't know.
Tragedy plus time equals Jessica can take it.
I'm like, also because I am a very like anxious, paranoid individual, I'm like, this is also helping me to prepare myself so I can keep myself safe when I go out and about. If I know all the possibilities, then I can prepare myself.
And now I hate it when you go out by yourself because I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Because all I hear in the background, and you put your headphones in when you can put them in, but sometimes I hear these stories in the background, and I'm like, great. Jessica's going to the gym, or she's going to Target without me, and I don't know if she'll ever come home. I'm so scared. Filling me with anxieties, giving me your anxieties. Thanks a lot.
I love you.
So that ties in perfectly to the song this week. Now, we have voicemails first. So we're all caught up on all those backlog of voicemails.
We are?
Well,
finally?
other than all the ones from Daniel that I feel like we can just kind of hit on once in a while.
All right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
But so I want to keep...
That doesn't count at being caught up on voicemails if we still have voicemails.
Well, we have new voicemails, so we're going to focus on the new voicemails and stay caught up. So here is one right here.
Hey, it's Jake from Minnesota. I won't take 3 minutes, but I do have a question. What's the latest rumors of a new Relient K album? I would love to hear some new music, and looking forward to hearing your answer. Bye.
Well, thanks. First time, long time. I don't know if he's a long time listener. But
thanks for the call.
Thanks for the call, Jake from Minnesota. He possibly tweeted at us as well like a week ago. I didn't realize this voicemail would be here when someone asked me on Twitter the exact same question, so I'm guessing it's the same person. But I'll spend all that time looking up if that Snickers tweet is real, but I won't go back to our Twitter to see if this is the same person. So we do get asked this, not like we have any special in-the-know situation. We know as much as any sort of fan who digs deep might be aware of, but first thing to know is that the rumors that Relient K is just flat out done are like just not true. There's just no actual proof to that. It's all just worry. It's all just worry because they haven't been around for so long. And really, there were very credible sources that said that in 2020 they were going to do a 21st anniversary tour. Sorry, not 21st. I always add an extra 10 years, which is bad that I'm going back to school for accounting. An 11-year anniversary for
That's why you're going back to school for accounting.
There's very credible sources that in 2020 they were going to do an 11th anniversary tour for Forget Not Slow Down, and that when COVID hit, because this tour was only in the early stages of planning, they simply dropped the plans, didn't ever mention them publicly other than the sources who kind of know it was happening, who leaked it, who sort of vaguely leaked it. And then they all just went off and Matt like spent the year with their family because it was COVID, pandemic, just everyone be safe, right? So now they're getting back together. They had this thing with Schneck at the 1981 headquarters where they just got together and played, and no one knows exactly what that is. Schneck is being coy about it, if it involves anything or what. But we know that there's a show booked in March for New York City. And also, when Hoops did an Instagram Live AMA from the 1981 Instagram, he was talking about, like, it was actually Daniel who asked, like, you know, what's going to happen in the future of INK for another album. And Hoops was candid, and he's like, well, I hope we do another rock album. I plan to do another rock album and all this stuff. If they just had flat out no plans, if they were never going to be together again, if they were never going to have new music, then they wouldn't even, like, entertain these thoughts. They wouldn't even answer those questions.
Yeah, it would, and if anything, it would be like, well, there's no plans right now, or something like that. It would be less hopeful.
So there's no news about music, but I'm sure Matt Thiessen has been writing a ton of music, and even Hoops have been writing music over the last year and a half. Now, when they can safely get together and record it and all that stuff, you know, Thiessen's already done his stuff with Fangs recently and everything like that. So it's like not like they're not working on things, but I'm sure a lot of stuff is going on behind the scenes. But
do you know what I hope those songs don't include thematically?
What?
Messing up, asking for forgiveness, and messing up again.
Yeah. This is a big Bad Friend Thiessen song this week, and we'll get into that. But here's another voicemail from Connor.
Hey, Danny and Jess, it's Connor. Holy shit, so many things from the last episode and a couple episodes. I'm going to try to talk quick, but it's probably going to, I'll probably have to call back. But anyway, so, first and foremost, hell yeah, a Patreon D&D group. I'm super down for that. Don't know when I'd fit it into my busy life, but absolutely. Secondly, you talked about Kanye West being a Christian or whatever, and something that I think is funny is, something I've discovered is that if there's one way to almost without fail piss off like a millennial evangelical, is to say that it's just to talk shit about Kanye West's album Jesus is King, because he kind of became like the token artist for a little bit, and it was weird. But anyway, tying into that, kind of following up on some of my past voicemails, just some context and a little background for like why I get so excited when Danny goes on big rants about stuff. I grew up a pastor's kid, and so like I was very deeply entrenched in like all of the toxicity of things that were discussed and things like that. So much so that I was like super conservative and bigoted, and ended up like when I got into college, I ended up joining a cult for like 2 years. No joke. There are like news articles about a cult on campus at CU Boulder. You can look them up. Pretty great. Awful.
Jessica, has that come up? Has that come up in all your true crime research?
Well, actually, I mean, yes, because I also do have like another side interest in just like cults and that in general. But I actually also have a friend who was a pastor's kid. And when she went to college, but this was in North Carolina, she too ended up joining a cult. So, interesting.
Seems to be a career track you can take.
Yeah.
Speak to your career
and much like it
advisor.
Sounds like.
See, I'm back in college for 2 weeks. I'm already speaking the lingo.
And much like Connor Daddy, she too, at least I'm guessing, got out as part of the moral of the story.
or is he? Let's find out.
But anyway, I was fortunate enough to get out of that, and with that and experiences growing up and experiences after that, like, that's why I get super pumped when Daddy starts yelling about stuff, because I'm right there yelling with you. So, yeah, that's why I have fun with that. Also, file that away. Tying into that, the thing I'm most excited to talk to you two about, I cannot believe we talked about Willie Ames and Christian pop culture so much on the last episode and didn't end up talking about Miles Peterson, a man who had it all: wealth, status, success, but still something was lacking. I feel like, I hope I'm the first person to enlighten you two to this thing that exists. But you talked about, you were like, oh yeah, Willie Ames, they somehow got him to, like, call in for this thing or whatever. I can almost guarantee that Toby Mac knew him personally, because Willie Ames was huge in, like, Christian children's media stuff in the late 90s, early 2000s, because of something that exists called Bible Man.
So I actually talked to Connor on DM about this after he sent the voicemail, and I actually had it in my notes last week about Bible Man. I pulled, like, one Bible Man clip of, like, behind the scenes footage, and I have heard of Bible Man. I've never seen an episode, but I had heard about it, and it just never came up. Do you have any memories of Bible Man? Maybe when you were watching kids in the nurseries at church?
I was only familiar with Bible Man through you. I feel like I saw maybe like a DVD or something at a Christian bookstore once, but didn't really think a lot of it.
Right.
And definitely did not associate it with Willie Ames, since I thought he was a baseball player anyway. So
well, I mean, did you know, and I can't believe I didn't mention this last week, but did you know that Buddy from Charles in Charge is Bible Man? That's what.
Oh, you're asking me. I thought you were asking the podcast.
No, I'm
at
asking
large.
you,
Oh,
Jessica.
okay. Yes, because you told me.
At some point in the past. Okay.
Like years ago.
Right. Okay.
Like anytime Charles in Charge, the song comes on or the subject comes up, you give me that little factoid.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So Connor is basically directly saying what I only danced around last week, and that is when we were talking about the fact that Willie Ames does these little phone call drop dialogue things in Charles in Charge, telling you to check out this guitar solo and, hey, Charles, check this out, this is fat. I said someone at Goatee probably contacted him, knowing in the back of my mind he was a Christian actor. In the sense that, well, I mean, like, Scott Baio is also, like, big right-wing religious political guy as well, and they've been best friends or are best friends for real in real life. But Willie Ames doesn't have a controversy section on his Wikipedia page. You know what I mean? Like, Willie Ames,
is that a real section? Oh yeah, it is a real section.
Well, for lots of people, like, you just go to someone's Wikipedia page and you see if they have a header underneath that says controversy, and they'll list out their controversy.
The Sadie Hawkins Pod Wikipedia has a really long controversy page.
It sure does. So Willie Ames just seems to, like, either he is a nicer Christian, or he just keeps his nose clean and doesn't, like, go out on the attack of people the way that a Scott Baio does.
Right.
So yeah, he was Bible Man.
And I shouldn't have clearly, but I assumed that Scott Baio was Catholic, because it's like he's always wearing a gold cross necklace, but it looks like it's the kind which has the Jesus on a cross, which I feel like is usually associated more with Catholicism than Protestant.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know their specific denomination or church affiliations or whatever. But yeah, Willie Ames, big name in the, like, mainline Christian entertainment world. And when I was saying someone at Goatee must have contacted them, I knew because Goatee is in Christian bookstores, Bible Man videos are in Christian bookstores. I'm sure it's a relatively small world on that side of, Christian media and stuff. So that's kind of what I was hinting at.
You're saying everybody in the Christian bookstore knows each other?
I meant, like, the Christian media. Yes, everyone at the Jessica's like, yes, everyone at the Christian bookstore knows it. It's a place where everybody knows your name. Like, cheers.
It was Willie Ames' kind of brainchild thing, and, like, he was the star of Bible Man. I'm going to send you the intro, like a YouTube link to the intro, because it was essentially Willie Ames putting on the full armor of God and fighting Luxor Spondroth, who was like a sub-in for Satan and the different sins that Satan used in each episode. And he fought the devil with a lightsaber, like a yellow lightsaber.
Yeah, like...
What?
They actually use like lightsabers in the show, and
We're watching this on Patreon.
Okay.
On Patreon, this is gonna be a thing.
The clip I put in my notes for last week that we never got to was behind the scenes, like the making of from one of the DVDs or
Is
something.
Is it intentional?
And Willie Ames says in this behind the scenes documentary, the lightsabers represent the light of God. It's not like they say the light swords or the space swords. He says the lightsabers represent the light of God.
If Lucasfilm didn't come for him, now Disney sure as heck will.
You remember, in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, when Chris Rock is like, George Lucas is going to sue somebody because they suddenly have lightsabers?
Yeah. Yes.
I assume someone must have edited those clips together. Bible Man using a lightsaber, and then it cuts to Chris Rock as the director of the... What was it? Black Man and Chronic movie. And he's like, George Lucas is going to sue somebody. Remember that?
Yes. Vaguely. It took me a minute.
Kevin Smith, another Christian filmmaker. Because he's Catholic.
Back on the subject of true crime, if I ever, now it's on the record, if I ever do happen to disappear, it's absolutely not intentional because I'm so ADHD that I don't retain anything but maybe 2 sentences of anything that I watch or like listen to. So I would not have the ability to plan my own disappearance is what I'm saying, because it took you talking for a few minutes to jog my memory that was a scene in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which
Right.
I've seen no less than 4 times.
Exactly. Jessica needs me to come outside and help her park in our garage sometimes. Like, I don't... What's the matter?
What does that have to do with anything? Now you're just going to insult my parking abilities?
No, I'm saying, like, you're going to go off and disappear by yourself? Who's going to park the car for you?
Well, first of all, I would run off to somewhere where it wasn't like the tiniest stupid LA spot possible when you're trying to pull in with 2 cars right next to you parking on the line.
Mm-hmm. I don't want this episode to be played in court someday. So
I don't either. I don't want to disappear. Look at what you did, Connor Daddy.
Why are you always stirring up trouble, Connor?
In this crazy, like, weird-looking Armor of God superhero armor stuff. And I cannot believe that it didn't come up. I really hope I'm the first person to enlighten you to the existence of Bible Man, because I think you will both freak out about it. Maybe that's just me. It's incredible. It's the cheesiest thing on the face of the planet, and it's amazing. I hope that the existence of Bible Man, and I just hope that it can brighten your day somehow a little bit, because it is... Oh boy, just look up the Prince of Pride song. The Prince of Pride, sung by Luxor Spondroth in that episode. It's amazing. Yeah, that's all. Hopefully this turns into some fun conversation because it's incredible. Anyway, I'll talk to you two later. Love the show. Love everything you guys are doing. Love you guys. Bye.
I thought Jeffree Star was the Prince of Pride.
Who's Jeffree Star?
I don't know, some YouTuber. I actually don't know their gender.
I was gonna say I ran into the Prince of Pride in West Hollywood once. He's a really nice guy.
Exactly.
Hold on, Prince of Pride.
Danny. I'm keeping up with the kids. I'm trying to connect with our Gen Z audience.
Right. Thank you for having that initiative. So to Connor's answer, we had both heard of Bible Man, but we've never watched it. So it sounds like something that's absolutely up our alley that we need to watch. There's a lot of like Christian thing. I mean, this kind of came up with like Salty the Singing Songbook. Like I was only vaguely familiar with that character. I mean, that is an early Christian character that a lot of kids probably my age wouldn't even necessarily be familiar with. But like, there's a lot of Christian, because my parents never forced Christian media on me. So any Christian media I went to of my own volition, like VeggieTales and like the Omega Code movies.
And outside of Christian
I did
Mingle,
not like Left Behind though. What?
I'm going to get to that in a minute. Outside of Christian Mingle, we don't seek out bad Christian entertainment, because there was a very unfortunate incident with the Left Behind series where I got very fiery and
we watched the Nick Cage Left Behind. I'd seen the first two Left Behind movies years and years ago just to see them, and then we watched the Nick Cage one with Jessica and some friends when it was new, and they have a scene in there where someone gets raptured and their dog is still there.
You Left Behind.
She got
you
so
don't know
upset
anything. Dogs can't
all
sin.
dogs go to heaven.
All dogs go to heaven. They are beings of pure light and love. They are angels.
They are the real lightsabers of love. And then after we
all
finished
of the animals should have disappeared and gone and been raptured. I call bullshit.
After we finished the Nick Cage Left Behind, we just fast forwarded through the original one. And that exact same scene was in there, and Jessica's like, "That's it! That's it!" Jessica was so upset. We weren't even watching that movie, and she just was so upset.
So we're a little concerned to try and go after, bad biblical entertainment, because it could be triggering.
I'm sure Bible Man would be fun.
Yeah. Actually, you never know.
Yeah. There's another series so the Omega Code movies are like okay and they're interesting, but then there's another series of Rapture Tribulation movies.
I was just about to ask what the Omega Code was.
The Omega Code was 2 movies. It kind of tied into this whole Bible code thing of like numerology and the Bible and dissecting the original text, and there's numbers because
is that what the Da Vinci Code is about?
I think that there was all this general stuff in sort of the late 90s, early 2000s about how there's secret mathematical codes hidden in the Bible and similar ancient texts and stuff. So there was a lot of like fiction being written around that concept at the time. Omega Code 2 is pretty fun. It's got Basil Exposition from the Austin Powers movies. What's his name? Michael York. It's got Michael York in it. I think he's the Antichrist in that one. So the Omega Code 2 is pretty good. But then there's this other series of 4 movies that I don't know what the series is called, but they each have a different name. One's like Tribulation, one's like Judgment, one is like Apocalypse, and then I think I'm getting these right, and then the other is Revelation. I think I got all 4 right. The 4th one is infamous because it's got Mr. T in it.
What?
And it's it's during the tribulation. All the Christians are gone, and just the people who are left behind. It's that situation, and some of them have come to Christ since everyone went up to heaven. Meanwhile, there's an Antichrist and whatever. And then they like put God on trial, like in this society, they put quote unquote God on trial. And Mr. T is in the movie for some reason.
Is he God?
No, I don't know.
Because that would have been genius.
I never watched this one, but I did watch the middle 2. And I think the one that was called, I just said all the names, but another one had Gary Busey. And was it Gary Sinise? And that one was okay as a movie. I don't remember any specific issues in it. I don't remember it feeling super religious other than the fact that it's set post-rapture. And yeah, they're just like hiding out in a cabin from society because they're hunting down the Christians or something like that. But then there's the second one that our church actually took us to see in the theater. This is building something, I swear. They took us to see it in the theater. And this one is just generally about like, they kind of know, these group of friends kind of know the Antichrist or something. I don't know. And then eventually the Antichrist like puts his plan into action, and you shake my hand or whatever. I give you the mark of the devil. And now not only like when you take the mark of the devil during the tribulation time, it's not just like now Satan has a hold of your soul or whatever. It's like they turn into wacky villains and they're going to get you. Which is like not in the Bible.
I was really hoping that they would like turn into like metalheads and they'd be like awesome. It'd be like.
But then one of the like normal nice characters in the movie who takes the mark of the devil and turns into a wacky evil Jim Carrey style villain, but evil. They shoot a dog in the movie, and I'm like, we're here from Christian
Nope.
school. There's
I'm not
children
okay
in this
with it.
movie.
Nope.
But it was so funny. I'm 16 or something, and I'm like, all these kids are now scarred. This is awful.
That's horrific
But
and
also
upsetting.
hilarious, not actually funny what happened to those kids. It was just funny that it's like, oh, well, it's a Christian movie, so we can go and we can take them or whatever. Like, I'm sure a whole generation of kids were also scarred by going to see Passion of the Christ. Like, kids who had never seen that kind of gore, but it's like, oh, well, this is gore with a purpose. Whatever. But I won't make you
Gore
watch...
with a Purpose is my favorite metal album.
It is. That's my favorite metal album, too. Man, that would definitely sound like a name of a Christian death metal album. Gore with a Purpose.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, that's after Al Gore lost the presidential election. He's like, I need to figure out how to be Gore with a purpose again. And then he figured out about climate change. And now
I thought
he's
you were
like,
going to say how to make the internet.
right. Well, he'd already done that before. Once he'd already conquered creating the internet, and he'd already run for president and lost or had the election taken from him. After that, he's like, how do I become Gore with a purpose? And he's like, climate change. And then An Inconvenient Truth. That's the origin of that movie. So we have one more voicemail just to keep caught up. And this goes back to last week's episode as well. And it's only 2 minutes long.
Hey guys, good morning. It's Lindy, and I wanted to call because I know you guys are updated or up to date on all my voicemails, but I am right now listening to Charles in Charge. And wow, what a dumpster fire.
Whoa, what does she mean? Does she mean our episode was a dumpster fire, or Charles in Charge is a dumpster fire?
I mean, it kind of was a dumpster fire of an episode, but to call us out like that.
Let's find out what she thinks was a dumpster fire.
I mean, Relient K, great job, but gosh, the background of it, knowing now what we didn't know, whew, wow. I haven't listened to the whole thing right now, but where I'm at right now, I figured I should just call because it was in my brain. When I first heard the song, I did not even know that Charles in Charge was a show. I think I was just too young to know that. And so I was like, oh, what a fun song. It's cute. I wonder if this Charles guy is supposed to represent Jesus. Because it was Charles in Charge of my days and my nights. So it was like, oh yeah, Jesus is he's my driver and I'm his co-pilot, that kind of thing. So, yeah, not exactly what it means, but that's what I thought. So, let me know if anybody thought the same. Bye!
But Jesus is also in the song, so how could Charles be Jesus?
That would be funny if, I just imagine that as a little scene. I imagine Lindy's interpretation of the song is a little scene where she meets Charles and she's like, oh, that's Charles. I'm pretty sure he's Jesus. He's Jesus in disguise as this guy named Charles that Relient K wrote about. And then she hanging out with Charles, treating him like Jesus the whole time. And it's just a hilarious sitcom misunderstanding. Then they go to the pizza parlor and Jesus walks in and she's like, what? But I thought you were, what? So,
you're doing the Buddy Christ hands.
I was.
Speaking of Kevin Smith.
So, yeah, I mean, Charles in Charge. We didn't get a ton of feedback from that. I don't know. But yeah, I didn't think about that. I've said that in the past about other topics in Relient K songs where I'm like, do people even know necessarily that this is a reference to something, Mm-hmm. So it somehow didn't cross my mind that people wouldn't know what Charles in Charge was. But then again, in the episode, I do mention that, it eventually left regular television. It was constantly on, daytime network TV all the time. And then it was syndicated primetime.
Yeah, I had never seen it prior to when you and I sat down and watched it. And I think the only reason why I knew it was a show is because one of the first times I listened to the Relient K album was in the car with my mom, and she's like, oh, I remember that show.
Okay, yeah. And there's a lot of shows that were just totally ubiquitous on television. Now, a lot of these shows are still technically on television, but they're on these, channels
Me TV.
like Me TV and Click TV and Fun TV and like these eighth rent digital only channels that are either only streaming or only found on like Air TV, like actual free TV with an antenna in this new digital, which still exists, but it's all like digital airwave television now.
When we were in Florida, I took my mom to the dermatologist and they were playing Me TV and they were playing an episode of Dennis the Menace, and my mom was like delighted.
Right. See, because what those channels are doing now is what television used to do for us in the 80s and the 90s, is there wasn't really enough content produced by all of these television networks. As the number of channels was growing quickly with cable and everything, they needed to fill in time because they like literally hadn't created, like the Disney Channel hadn't created enough content yet. So they would play old Disney cartoons. Now I feel like you would never see an old Disney cartoon on the Disney Channel unless it's like some sort of weird interstitial that's been like edited up in a special way, because the Disney Channel has so much content. They have so much new content, and they have so much like relatively older content, like 10 or 20 years. But when we were kids in the 80s, all these shows, when I was a kid in the 80s, Jessica Sugar, when I was a kid in the 80s and 90s and you were a kid in the 90s, you would still see old television shows on TV all the time, filling in the blank space. Especially if you were a kid like me who was just home watching TV all the time, you would see all these old shows. Even in the 90s, there are multiple situations, like I remember on The Simpsons and on the show The Critic, where the joke was young kids have already forgotten who Johnny Carson was because he left late night TV in like 91 or 92 or something, right? And I had never seen, I was actually also too young to see Johnny Carson at 11:30 at night, but I knew who he was because I watched so much TV that I would see the clips and the references and like the special about the greatest Johnny Carson moments. So I was a kid who wasn't supposed to know who Johnny Carson was anymore, but I still did because I'm old. And I'm back to school. So
my grandma used to watch the Golden Girls all the time. She loved Golden Girls and Designing Women. And I remember being like the tiniest little kid ever and Golden Girls being on at her house, and then being all the way up in like 2004 in high school, and Golden Girls was still on when I'd go over to her house. And I was always like, how many episodes of the Golden Girls are there?
I feel like certain shows, certain classic television shows only live in the minds of young people today under certain circumstances. If it's on Netflix, if the memes are, you know, right, and something like the Golden Girls and the merchandising is out there and it kind of puts it in the consciousness. But the idea that like younger kids, younger generation are just going to learn about the existence of certain media properties or shows simply by flipping the channel doesn't happen, because so many people at home aren't just sitting there flipping the channel, they're going through.
Plus there's such a flood of content now, like there's no way to ever, you know, for further generations to ever know all that, like the early stuff that existed.
Right. Which is a shame, because classics like Charles in Charge oh, never mind, forget that. So this week we are talking about When I Go Down, the closing track from Mmhmm. Of course, not counting Mmhmm 10. It is the closing track from the album Mmhmm. And we have a special guest on this episode, Zeek Power, who was an Australian The Voice finalist. And we discovered him when we started doing this podcast because he has all these Relient K covers on his YouTube channel. And then, like, we'll talk about it in the interview, but basically it seems like he was on The Voice while we started the podcast. So we started seeing his covers, and then I was like, oh, he's on The Voice. But he was on The Voice at the time, and we couldn't see it because it's down there. I pointed to Australia down there.
I was going to say, it's on our kitchen floor over there.
He's trying to be cute. Down under.
Oh, goodness.
Don't worry, Denny does not show up. But the big revelation was that he has listened to the show. Why didn't Denny
do the opening?
Oh, no. So the thing is, Zeke does mention in the interview that he's listened to the show. And it was after the call, after the Zoom call, I was like, that means he's probably heard me try to do Denny's voice. Heard me do Denny before. So anyway, looking forward to that. So this is a song that our guest picked the song as well, because we knew this is the week we'd be able to have him on, and I asked him, you know, go ahead and pick a song from what we have left. So this is honestly like a song that I didn't really play a lot. Because when I would get this late in the album, I would go back and kick it off back again at track 1. Especially with, Failure 2 is the track right before this one, as things are kind of getting like dramatic and not, Failure 2 is not a slow song like this one is in parts, but it's still like, I just want to kick things back off. So by the time I would get this late in the CD, I'd go back to the one I'm waiting for. So I would just never get through this song all the way. And it's really a shame because I think this is a great song. I definitely heard it because there are times in my life where I listened to, I put on and I'm like, I'm going to listen to it beginning to end. But I just this is not a song that I absorbed fully throughout the years. So really the most I've listened to it in the last 15 years was this last week.
Yeah, same.
So what do you think of the song?
The music itself feels very worship teamy.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel like we are in church. And I know that everybody loves the sleigh bells. The sleigh bells become a big thing for Relient K.
Right.
And I feel a little bit too much because of that worship teamy kind of aspect of the song.
Right.
I feel like I'm listening to a Christmas song by the time I get to the end.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. This song is maybe one of the most churchy songs that I think Relient K has ever written, but it still has its own identity that kind of disconnects it from what I would think of as fully churchy music. We just did a Patreon episode about Jack's Mannequin, or specifically the album People and Things has 3 songs that Matt Thiessen wrote. We co-hosted it with Alex from Zeitgeist Lab Collections podcast, and I said to him, some of this Jack's Mannequin music, especially it's all piano based, but
Jack has more than one mannequin is what you're telling me.
It's like Alien and Aliens. Yeah. The sequel, he's going to get Jack's Mannequin back together, but it's going to be called Jack's Mannequins.
Gotcha.
So anyway, that was dumb. So anyway, I was telling Alex in that episode, which you can go to patreon.com/SadieHawkinspod if you want to listen to it, that some of the piano on People and Things sounds more like church than any Relient K song.
Yeah.
Honestly. But legitimately, if you took out the lyrics about going to a drug deal with your best gal and stuff, the kind of lyrics that are on that album, if you just took those instrumentals, you could play them at church and no one would bat an eye. This has still this sort of Relient K thing that makes it unique in such a way that it would be a standout played in a worship set. And I feel that about a lot of Relient K's most worshipy songs. Like some of the songs on 3 Left, and maybe which is not called Never Underestimate My Jesus, but other than that song, which is maybe also the most churchy, straight-ahead worship song, anything else Relient K has ever done that contains elements of worship, it's just that, elements of worship. It always feels like a Relient K song first, injected with some of the DNA and attributes of worship songs.
Yeah.
This feels like it is leaning heavier towards a percentage where it's more worship than Relient K. It's getting towards more worship than Relient K, but it still feels like more Relient K than worship. And I feel like if a modern worship band did this, it would stand out. Maybe it's something about the song structure as well. And I don't just mean how the first 4 minutes is sort of one thing, but it's kind of a dour. It's it starts off with a minor key. It builds towards something dramatic in a major key. Those sleigh bells come in. That all seems like maybe there's a lot of churches nowadays that would do something that big and dramatic and theatrical, but that is still a theatricality that I wouldn't directly attribute to worship music, especially that meme I talked about recently that said, I have a joke about modern worship music. I have a joke about modern worship music. I have a joke about modern worship music. Modern worship music has to be built on those repetitions. And this song doesn't have those same kind of repetitions to me. It seems to change up and take you on a little bit of a roller coaster at different points that sort of mainline worship music wouldn't necessarily do. So this still has a big, dramatic, theatrical, unique structure to me that keeps it apart from that concept of worship, of straight ahead worship.
Yeah. So lyrically, and also musically, we have theatrical Thiessen.
Right.
And then lyrically, we have Bad Friend Thiessen.
Yeah.
And I didn't really realize it because, much like you, I didn't listen to this song a lot previously. So as I was going through the lyrics, I realized that, like, every song on Mmhmm has the same message vibe. I messed up, made my friends mad, apologized, please forgive me, P.S. I'm totally gonna do it again. And Forget and Not Slow Down is exactly the same, where every song is about ruining relationship and wanting to get back. But these albums are just so good that we let it slide. Like, a lesser band, a lesser songwriter, like, you would not let that slide.
Right.
Where you're like, man, this is so repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
The message is so consistently repetitive, and it's almost going through the lyrics, it's almost becoming painful when we go through the Bad Friend Thiessen songs, because I'm just like, dude, either get it or don't. Sorry, but
I totally get what you're saying.
Like, either fix yourself or don't, and don't keep involving us in it. Like, we get it.
But it's a detriment.
It was fun the first 20 times,
Right.
but the last 80, it just got a little monotonous.
But it's, yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying, because really it's the detriment of this format in which we're going through the songs. Like, it's not something you would maybe necessarily notice when you're just listening to Relient K.
Right.
Even if it's all you listen to. You're not necessarily, but the fact that we are, you know, we're not writing them down, but we are kind of like somewhat categorizing these songs as we go through, because we're finding these same themes. So we find all of these Bad Friend Thiessen songs, and we're like, oh, there are so many of these that, yeah, it ends up feeling like it's a little too much. It reminds me of when you did a watch through of the Wonder Years, because the Wonder Years, and this actually goes to what I was talking about television before, the Wonder Years is a show that was meant in a time where you couldn't watch every episode of a show back to back to back. Like, the production, I don't know what it was, but apparently when you go watch streaming Wonder Years in order now, in a binge watch, like, Kevin's character, like, learns but then unlearns in the next episode, and he's with Winnie, and then he's not with Winnie, and then he's with Winnie again, and he's not with Winnie. And I'm sure it had something to do with the production order. Like, they were probably producing the episodes, or at least writing them in one certain way. But because television was in such a format that, like, well, these are going to get played on reruns ad nauseum, and it's basically like you jump into the story at any point. It doesn't matter. No one's ever going to watch. They were thinking no one's ever going to watch the Wonder Years from beginning to end, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't worry about those inconsistencies of Kevin's character episode to episode. So Jessica was getting really frustrated.
It's like The Simpsons, but not funny, and he does get older.
Right. Exactly. Like, every episode, the status quo sort of resets no matter what he learned in a previous episode. I mean, seasons by season, he grows as a character, but not episode by episode as you want.
No, he doesn't really grow as a character throughout his entire arc.
That's true, I guess. I didn't do the full rewatch, but
When I was watching it, I was like, he does not deserve Winnie. Like, when they, spoiler warning, don't end up together in the end, I'm like,
oh, you finished
that's
the whole
great.
show?
Yeah, I watched the whole show.
Oh, nice.
I'm like,
okay.
That makes total sense, because you know what? She can do way better than him. He's, like, not the best dude.
And some people might be shocked to hear this. I was a little shocked to hear it, but then I accepted it, because, like, I'm like, you know, it's television. It's network television. Like, what do you expect? It's not HBO, which isn't television. It's HBO. It's like they were just writing these shows expecting you to just watch them one by one.
That's a very, like, old man slogan right there. It's like, I don't completely know what you're talking about, but I get it.
So, yeah, so I get it. Yeah, it does get a little frustrating. It's like so many songs about fucking up with your relationships with your friends and your parents and your girlfriend and all this stuff, and it's like with God,
everyone.
It's like we just want to see you grow. And then, like, you do get those songs that we have found, those sort of turnaround songs like God, and I feel like really like the lining is silver, and but there's not enough.
It's mainly Air for Free.
And Air for Free.
Like, you get a lot of that in Air for Free, where you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've finally seen him grow. But to be honest, like, if we get another album and it's more of an Mmhmm message, and it's less of a air for free message, I'm going to be like, oh, we're back to square one again, dude. Like you had the growth. Keep growing. Like and
it is an important message, and I know, and I don't think to say this is like saying like you can't enjoy this message in these songs. It's just like so many songs on this topic. And
no, because as a teenager, this totally connected with me. Mm-hmm. Was like my favorite album, and it absolutely every song really touched me and connected with me.
Right. And
I'll listen back to it during different parts of my life where I'm like, oh my gosh, again, this really touches me and it really speaks to me. But when you go through like we do every week, it starts to become like man, it's like so many songs.
And it does. Every one of these songs always has that optimism in it. And I think that optimism in this song is literally represented by the sleigh bells and the turn from the minor key transition about 4.5 minutes in to the heavier guitar and the sleigh bells and the nicer melody. So it's like this emotion that I'm talking about. It's represented in not just in the lyrics but in the music. But yeah, still it's like it's always that hope that like I'll get out of this and I'll be better and I'll be a better friend and stuff. But it's like he should have written a few songs to counteract him. Just in hindsight of like thanks for loving me, and I'm not going to beat myself up.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, friend, family member, for always loving me despite my flaws, and I love you despite your flaws. And I'm so glad we have each other. There should have been a song like that. Now, I'm not Matt Thiessen. I'm not going to write the song. If he wants to take what I just said verbatim and write a song off of those lyrics, go ahead. They're yours.
Now, I'm in this episode, and this is the first episode where I've done this, I'm giving him a hard time for coming back to the same message. But when he completely diverted from the formula and from the message with Collapsible Lung, I'm like, no, forget all of this.
Well, Collapsible Lung is almost like an episode of a show, like when you're getting, like, you're like, oh boy, I can't wait to see how maybe there's a cliffhanger, like you're watching a show like Lost on a big cliffhanger, right? From one episode, and you're like, I can't wait to see how this resolves. And then the episode starts, and it's like a full flashback episode to something before that we're going to set up before we get back to that cliffhanger next week. You're like, no! So Collapsible Lung comes out, and you're like, no, I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And it's so funny, because it's like, I'm approximating Matt Thiessen, a human being, to a fictional characters on a show, but he does lay his emotions and his feelings out in this way. So you're hoping, as you're growing as a person, listening to this music and being touched by this art, I'm sure you're also hoping to sort of hear the similar growth and along with yourself, just like how, kids grow up with Harry Potter as they read the books. They're the same age as the characters and different things similar to that. You want to have that same connection through the music throughout the years. So we don't really finally get those next steps of growth, only a little bit on Burn the B-Sides and on Forget Not Slow Down, but then really not until 2016.
Yeah. So it's another song with lyrics about a heavy heart.
Right.
Yeah.
Heavy heart's a very lyrical
common
phrase in this whole album, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's also a reference to Fallen Man, which made me think of the song Fallen Man and Hope for Every Fallen Man from Burden the B-Sides and from the single for Must Have Done Something Right. The rock version is on Must Have Done Something Right. So I was like partially wondering, because this song also definitely feels like a step towards writing Deathbed, right? Mm-hmm. This also, and I feel like we've mentioned a couple of, maybe Am I Understood, or a couple other songs that feel like they were stepping stones to writing Deathbed, to kind of being able to accomplish that as a songwriter. There's these other songs that like are over 5 or 6 minutes that have multiple sort of movements and parts.
This
and
song
build
is
on something.
So long. It's probably another reason why I've probably never listened to the entire thing all the way through until doing my research this week, because I have a very short attention span. I was probably like, oh, I'm done with this one. Let's go on to the next song now.
I totally get it.
Or back to the beginning.
Yeah, because I think I was exactly the same way, why I probably didn't listen to this song all the time. I'm like, oh, it's this song, it's nice, it's 6 minutes, let's go back to the beginning of the album and kick it off again. But then getting into it, and I listened to this song back to back to back to back to back all throughout the week, and like that once you understand what to kind of expect and you're waiting for those changes and you're living in this song, the runtime almost doesn't feel long enough. However, I think maybe this song could have benefited in a way to like maybe touch more people if you could cut out about a minute before that sleigh bell, that heavy rock change up that comes about 4 minutes in. If you could somehow because that first 4.5 minutes is really of one singular sort of musical cadence, and then things change up a lot for the last 2 minutes.
That is also a common theme on this album, in fact.
Right. So I feel like if there's somewhere you could cut a minute out of the song in the first 4 minutes, and you could have a good radio edit. But I wouldn't want to necessarily also replace the 6.5 minute version. I'm just saying you could have cut this down, which is true because I think the 6 minute running time is daunting for people, because in a lot of the covers and fan videos I found this week, people kind of give up on trying to do the whole cover. They only do like a minute version of it, or only a 3-minute version of it. They cut out sections, or they skip directly to other sections. So I think that proves that it's kind of maybe a lot to delve into. And it's funny because like Deathbed, like we still haven't really done our proper Deathbed episode, but when I did the Deathbed episode with all the listeners, like, yeah, I listened to the song a bunch, but it's so long that like even as you're building ideas from the song, like you have to listen to it again and again and again and again, and it being so long, like you're forgetting ideas and thoughts you have about the song if you want to bring it into this format of a podcast. So after having those conversations and listening to Deathbed more over the last year, I'm like, I have so much more to say about Deathbed that I didn't get to say in that episode. So I was like, this is another long song. I need to like listen to this song consistently and get it in my core and really feel this song. I don't want to leave it behind like I kind of had to do with our first Deathbed episode. So, and this is a little easier than trying to do that with Deathbed because there aren't a lot of big changes. So you do only have a couple of different musical kind of feelings to grapple with. And then it's not as heavy and confrontational a concept as here's this character's literal death and all that stuff. This is really just about, this is a much lighter subject matter than the Deathbed overall.
But there's still a lot going on with lyrically, and like definite messages there that it felt really daunting when I sat down with the lyrics, and I was like, I feel like I want to give this more like thought than I feel I have the ability to at this moment. Right. Like every time I sat down to look at them, I was like, okay, I really just need to dive into this. And every time it just felt like it was like, oh, this is a thing and maybe I want to say something, and this has a thing and maybe I want to say something else about that. And my like main note that I had about the lyrics is just from that first verse where I wrote, can't dictate your own moods. Maybe you should wear a mood ring, Matt Thiessen.
Nice. That's good. Well, just going into that first section of the lyrics, I'll tell you flat out, it hurts so much to think of this. So far from thoughts I will exclude. The very thing that I hate more than everything is the way I feel powerless to dictate my own moods. That line, the very thing I hate more than everything. Like that feeling when you just hate everything. You know what I mean? Like you just can't handle life. It's just too much. And like the last year and a half, like in life, like what's, everyone should understand that concept now, post-pandemic. But like if when you're just mentally not feeling right, and you just feel like everything's against you and you just kind of hate everything. You know what I mean? And that's such a, it's like simultaneously a beautiful and a fun and a funny and a poignant lyric to say the one thing I hate more than everything is not being able to control, not being able to control my hiccups.
Goodness.
And not being able to control my moods. But maybe if you weren't so against prescription drugs, maybe if you weren't like, oh, look what good that did. It could help you control your moods.
Facts.
I've thrown away so many things that could have been much more, and I just pray my problems will go away if they're ignored. But that's not the way it works. And yeah, that's also another thing, like, not just the bad friend Thiessen subject, but the idea of, like, I've got problems and I just want to ignore them. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That comes up a couple times in Relient K. Not as much, but once in a while. And I feel like that's a thing that comes up with all our lives. We just want to ignore problems and just hope they go away. And problems don't really go away. We just kind of like, if we ignore a problem, we just kind of accept them over time. You know what I mean? It's just like, this is still a problem, but it's not as much a problem anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, maybe, for me, sometimes like some of my anxieties as a kid, like I just like learned to deal with them better. Like those anxieties might still be there, but then I also have new context as an adult. I'm like, well, that's not really an anxiety for me anymore. You know what I mean? And that's not necessarily the problem going away. There actually was growth there that helped me deal with it, but it's so small and slow and subtle that it didn't feel like work to get better on that anxiety. It feels like it just went away with time, but really it's not. If problems go away, something happened. Maybe you didn't see it, maybe you didn't notice it. You have that bump under your car and you're like, what is that? What is that? I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to take it to the shop. I just want it to go away. And then that bump eventually goes away because that hitchhiker that you ran over finally let go. So many lyrics. I've thrown away, I skipped here a little bit. I've thrown away the hope I had in friendships. I've thrown away so many things that could have been much more. I've thrown away the secret to find an end to this, and I just pray my problems will go away if they're ignored. But that's not I skipped to the I'm not on Genius, so I don't know what's a chorus, what's a verse, and what's a pre-chorus.
Oh, here, I have it pulled up if you want to look at my phone.
Here we go. Now I got it. I was just on Google Lyric Find. Thank you. Okay. Any control bridge one, because this is when things get good. We know like generally how that first 4 minutes of the song goes, but things start to go good when he goes, any control I thought I had just slips right through my hands, while an ever-present conscience shakes its head and reprimands me. Then there I confess, I'll blame all this on my selfishness. Yet you love me, and that consumes me, and I'll stand up, and I'll do so willingly. So,
bless you, April.
Bless you. So, what's something I don't like here necessarily is, but it does also make sense because it's not like that heavy. I mean, the song overall feels heavy, but this line is, any control I thought I had just slips right through my hands, while an ever-present conscience shakes its head and reprimands me. Okay, well. Here he says his ever-present conscience shakes its head and reprimands me. So you could interpret that knowing that this is a worship prayer-based song and knowing that Relient K is born-again Christian, that conscience is God. But I don't want to see it that way, and I don't think it's meant to be that way because... yes, like God, I think there's like a concept of maybe God being disappointed in you, but like when you lean on that too heavily, like, oh, God hates me. Why do you love me, God? I'm such scum. It starts to get too much into this self-flagellating thing, right?
Yeah.
When you start seeing God as being disappointed in you, like too heavily, like there's something partially understandable about the idea that like God expected more of you, but when you start seeing it as God is heavily disappointed in you, and he says like, and then you start imagining it's as if God is saying, but I guess I'll love you, like it's a burden. Like it's not God's burden. God loves you no matter what, and he forgives you every single time, and it's no sugar off his cake or whatever. I don't have a good simile. It's not hard for God to forgive you because he is bigger and more powerful than you in every way. So the idea that God is shaking his head at you and reprimanding you is not what I like to imagine. I do think that I don't believe in the vengeful God, but the vengeful God is a very heavily conceived belief by many religions and throughout history. So I do think there is that side of God, or that side of what we call God. But just the idea that like you mess up in a little way with a friend and he's reprimanding you, I don't see it that way. Here Thiessen says, my ever-present conscience. So I think he's literally saying, he himself, his conscience, who is more critical of bad friend Thiessen than bad friend Thiessen? Bad friend Thiessen is the conscience that is ever-present and shaking his head and reprimanding him. He's beating himself up for constantly failing his friends and his relationships. Even though here it says, yet you love me, capitalized you, and I'm not going to go get the lyric book to see if the you really is capitalized. I actually think the booklet is all capital letters. So at this point, it's about him standing back up and getting back on his feet and handling the situation and not waiting for the problem to go away. You give me hope, and hope, it gives me life. You touch my heavy heart, and you make it light. As I exhale, I hear your voice, and I answer you. though I hardly make a noise, and from my lips those words can choose to say, seem pathetic, but it's a fallen man's praise, 'cause I love you, God. Here he's literally worshiping and praying. Like, this is like the most prayer-based moment in a Relient K song probably ever. And we didn't even touch on the basic core of the thing is when I go down hard. I'm skipping back a little. And I take everything I've learned and teach myself some disregard. When I go down, it hurts to hit the bottom, and all the things that got me there, I think if only I had fought them. So this is a song about, I know that this is just another Bad Friend Thiessen song, but I feel like this one, more than anyone, when you get to that last half of the song, it is more and more about, this song feels like, if Thiessen never wrote another Bad Friend Thiessen song after this, I would think that this was the finale to that thread in his songwriting in his life.
Yeah.
At least in the life that he permits to be shown to his fans through his music. Like, this feels like a finale. This feels like this could be a finale of that thread. Like, I've messed up again, and I'm going to stand up, and God, thank you so much for helping to control and put peace in my heart and to help control my life,
and
to
that's
give control to my life.
That hope that we always talk about at the end of like every Relient K song is that even when you get into sort of the more like darker themes or anything like that, there's always still this sense of hope at the end.
And the one other thing I want to say is the part in there that he mentions about like the control he thought he had slips away. We've touched on this before as well, but I think that that's one of the things that's one of the core principles of like human existence that every religion touches on, and it's why every religion touches on it, because it's fact that you can't have all the control in your life. If you're a human being, you will never have all the control that and some of us should have it. Some of us who are like beaten down and victims, we needed that, you need that control for bad things that happen, but it just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in a world of chaos. So religions sort of see that, and they say, like, we can show you a better way to accept things and to feel that there is something in control of your life, right? So I think that understanding that you will never fully be able to control your situation is a very healthy thing to accept. And some people come to that, and I have come to that in my life through a relationship with God and believing that there is a force bigger than you, that when things seem like they're out of control, they'll always be set right because there's something looking out for you. So I think no matter how like cynical I get or anyone gets about Christian thought or something, that's something I absolutely believe in, is like you have to let go of control, because the people who want the most control and never let go of it, they become the villains, they become the dictators, they become the abusers. Like, those are the people who exert the most control in their lives and the people around them. They are the villains. They are the awful people who you have to control. It just, yeah, you get what I'm saying. So anyway, do you have any other notes on the song before we take our break?
No, I think you put that really well.
I will say that this title, aside from being a subject that comes up a lot, the words in this title also come up a lot. Forget and not slow down, down in flames. And this is a title that kind of has that like Archer the character, the cartoon character, saying phrasing, because it kind of accidentally is easy to come up with a dirty joke to this title. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. That was literally how Danny woke me up this morning, was with that joke.
Yeah, I said, I was like, and she's like, is that the bit for the episode? I'm like, no, we can't do that. We can't say that in the opening, but phrasing, Still, I don't think, it kind of stinks when like Urban Dictionary basically ruins like language. It ruins language, like things that we have to say, words that we have to use, then become sexualized because of like Urban Dictionary culture.
Right.
Well, everyone ponder that while we go take our break.
We want to thank you very much for listening to Sadie Hawkins Pod. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram, which are both at Sadie Hawkins Pod. From there, you can interact with us, as well as view the videos and images we talk about on the show.
You can also call our voicemail line, which is 402-95-SADIE. That's 402-957-2343. Leave us a message and we can play it on a future episode.
Also, we invite you to check out SadieHawkinspod.com, one simple place to get links to all our social media and a link to our TeePublic store.
There you can pick up merchandise, or merch as it's known in the industry. We have our Black Flag parody shirt, our Little Sheet Boy ice cream shirt, and our all-new Boys from Canton ampersand shirts that list the first names of every album lineup of Relient K.
And if you can't get enough of us, well, good news. At patreon.com/SadieHawkinspod, we are releasing at least 2 bonus episodes a month. You'll also have access to our whole backlog, including our discussion of Owl City's Ocean Eyes, reading through the Complex Infrastructure book, and the songs from K is for Karaoke.
Finally, we want to thank our current patrons, who include Daniel, Josh, JR, Jarrett, Eric, Joel, Connor, Michael, Helen, Samantha, Roxanne, Jimmy Eat Pod, This Might Be a Podcast, Tucker, David, and Brady.
We hope to see you there, and even if we don't, we hope that you will keep us in positive regard.
Aww.
So you like Relient K, do you? Well, what about They Might Be Giants? My name is Greg Simpson, and I host a They Might Be Giants fan podcast, and it's called This Might Be a Podcast. This Might Be a Podcast is a song-by-song podcast featuring a different guest every episode from normal fans like you and I, but also I've had guests such as John Darnielle of the Mountain Goats, Justin McElroy of My Brother and Me, Hutch Harris of the Thermals, Mike Park of Asian Man Records, Franz Nikolai of the Hold Steady, and Danny Weinkoff and Marty Beller of They Might Be Giants, and past drummers Dan Hickey and Brian Doherty. Search for Punk News or This Might Be a Podcast on any podcast platform and you will find us. This Might Be a Podcast, brought to you by punknews.org.
As always, we have song meanings this week. Bo99 on November 12th, 2004 said, "Nice worship song, but it drags out."
Oh, is it our friend Bo?
Oh, maybe. I had not thought about...
Nice worship song, but it drags out. That's my impression of him.
Sure.
Don't tell him I did that. He hates it when I do that.
Wise Wiz, January 10th, 2005 said... "There's a word I'm trying to think of. I think it's wow. This song just goes to prove how far Relient K and Matt Thiessen's lyrics have gone in the last few years. Totally amazing. As far as the song meaning goes, though, I think this is a song about rising from the ashes of an emotionally burnt out life. They've been living their life according to their own selfish desires, and things seem to be going smoothly. But soon they find that life's taking them nowhere but down, really quickly. So quickly that before they even know it, they've hit rock bottom. It hurts, but the most painful thing is that they realize that they could have avoided all of this if they had just followed God. They just want all this to be over, but that's not the way it works. No, they've got to admit that they are wrong, and more importantly, to repent and submit to the will of God. And that's the beautiful part, because even though they've gone and messed things up completely and have hit rock bottom, all they have to do is look up and there's Jesus right next to them with open arms to lift them up again. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's about in the broadest sense. It's like they opened up some concepts. I feel like the song itself is actually drilled down to specifically be about having a bad effect on your relationships with your family and friends specifically, and then this person broadened it to kind of all sin, which is a perfectly reasonable way to kind of personally interpret the song. But I don't agree that or maybe it is, but just like how Forget Not Slow Down is specifically about the dissolution of that engagement that he had, but when you listen to it, it speaks to your personal tragedy. So I understand.
Over on lyricinterpretations.com on April 19th, 2011, Anonymous said, "I honestly think that this song could be either about a girl or about a struggle with God. Despite the last verse, I find that the guy could have either been dumped or recently rejected, and now he's trying to tell the girl how he feels, but he's very uncomfortable about it. On the godly side, however, it could be someone who messed up majorly in life and wants the forgiveness of that/those sins. It could also be saying that Even though he is committing a sin and he knows it, that he's getting deeper into the problem. That's my interpretation on it, at least.
That's interesting because that's my interpretation of Be My Escape. And I swear Be My Escape doesn't have any absolute concrete proof that it is about God or it is about a relationship with a person. But I feel like this song that we're talking about this week has more concrete lyrics that say it's specifically about your relationship with God. So it's funny that they switch that from years before I ever thought that much about Be My Escape.
Over on Reddit's r/Relient K, there's a thread where when I go down or let it all out, I've had this discussion many times with my friends that are RK fans, and I'm curious which one you all like better and why. OK216 said, I couldn't possibly decide. They both fit perfectly where they're placed in the album. I'm probably more likely to listen to When I Go Down on its own for what it's worth, just because Let It All Out flows out of which to bury, so I almost view them as one song. S. Murphy 115 3 years ago said, up until about 2 years ago, I'd say Let It All Out, but then I rediscovered When I Go Down, and that song just blows me away now. I can literally play it on repeat for an embarrassingly long time. It's so deep and has so many levels and is so intricate. Like, I can listen to it 3 different times and pull 3 different things out of it. JIA Snake responded to that comment with, this was my experience as well. When I Go Down was the last song I fell in love with on Mmhmm. Most of my friends always argue for Let It All Out. Future Roscoe responded to the thread with, my brain read this for a second as When I Go Out, as in that 5 Iron Frenzy bonus track song about getting hit by cars.
I was gonna mention that, so now I have to do that. I had a whole little bit coming up where I was gonna, but now it's ruined. I was gonna do this thing where it was like, well, here's the version that we all know, and then I was gonna click this song. I was gonna play this song.
Way to go, Future Roscoe.
That's the song.
That's my favorite Beastie Boys album.
So I had this whole cute thing planned. I was like,
track.
Well, here's the version, I was going to do this thing and totally ruined. Thanks a lot.
That said, When I Go Down wins every song contest it enters for me. That song means a ton to me. Then Blue Star Drummer responded, Let It All Out, not even getting deep with the reasoning. I just prefer the lyrics and like the tune/melody/overall sound of it. And to be honest, for some reason, it took me a long time to even appreciate When I Go Down. So there's that too. Lewis 9323 said, I had When I Go Down in my music first, but actually a week ago I was listening to Relient K and Let It All Out was playing. And I was amazed because it's such a great song and I couldn't believe I hadn't listened to it. So yes, Let It All Out for me.
It's like when I go, when I go out, let it all out. When I go down, it's like down. So it's like this, basically this question on this Reddit post is like, are you down or are you out?
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Obi-Wan 3301 responded, I would have to say Let It All Out. The song that it comes directly after gives it more depth, and I really like the vocalist that switch off throughout. Dealers_of_fame says When I Go Down. What do you think, Dan?
I don't know. I think I probably like this song more, but I'd
go Let It All Out.
Yeah. Okay.
Then we have a blog post about this song from disjointedthinking.jeffhughes.ca. This was posted on April 6th, 2006 at 10:47 p.m. Relient K, When I Go Down. It's been a while since I've posted lyrics to any songs. It's always a pleasure when I find a song that really speaks to me. It's like finding an oasis in a desert. The words of the song refresh you and restore your spirits as you trudge through all the other songs with dry, dusty lyrics that mean nothing. I hate songs that mean nothing. I'd much rather that an artist keep a song to himself if the words mean nothing.
I hate that. I really hate that. That's like one of my biggest pet peeves. Like, okay, I get it. If you need a song to mean something, that's fine. But the idea that they shouldn't even release it unless it means something. I just hate that. Like, I'm like, there's literally trillions of songs, not millions, not billions, not even trillions. There's Googleplex of songs in the world. Like, songs are not overall that hard to do. It's not like a painting or a film where it takes a lot of effort. Yes, writing a song can take No, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you can write a song in an hour. You can write a song in a week. You can write a song over a year. But a song is an easier thing to do than a painting or a film or whatever.
Well, to make it good.
To make it anything. Like, if you're just good, if you have...
You could do a finger painting. A bad finger painting in like 5 minutes.
No, you're right. No, okay, you meant to make a film
or a painting.
You could shoot
something bad on your phone.
But you can write an amazing song in 20 minutes. You can write an amazing song over the course of a year. But this idea that, like, don't even release music unless it means something, like, that doesn't mean anything.
Well, also, who knows who could find meaning in it?
Yeah, and who knows what the meaning is. But I don't care if it's just like... Like, and the idea that, like, songs are just, like, vapid love songs and that means it's meaningless. Like, you don't know what that song means to someone. You don't know if they've gone through something horrible and they hear a bubblegum pop song and it somehow gives their life some sort of light. So the idea that it has to have some sort of lesson or some special deeper meaning or it's garbage, I hate that. I just hate that point of view. I seriously, because here this person said, I need a song to mean something or I wouldn't like it. Cool. But then they go the extra mile. It's like, artists should just keep it to themselves. Like, no, that is the worst, the most awful thing I've heard. Not that I've ever heard. That's hyperbole. But that is an awful way to look at other people expressing themselves. That is just an awful way to look at other people expressing themselves.
Also, they're talking about a band that put out Silly Shoes.
Yeah.
Because what good is a song, or any art for that matter, if it doesn't communicate a message? It's just a nice thing that you play every
But it does. Literally everything communicates a message. I don't care. Like, think of think every song on Collapsible Lung conveys a message. Everything conveys a message. This person thinks that the message has to be of a certain value. This person is saying the message that, like, don't tell me what you have to say unless I think it's of value. That is wrong to think that way. And this is, I'm sorry I don't normally impose, like, when people have opinions, like, even reviews, I try to leave like a little bit of space for them. But no, this person's point of view is wrong-headed. They are on the wrong side of history. You don't know what anyone's message is, unless it speaks to you personally or you understand it, or is what you're saying that you have to make sure the song lines up with your philosophical and theological views, and that anything against it, if it challenges you in the wrong way, you think it then has no meaning.
I did not realize I was opening up a can of worms with this one.
But that's just so awful to say. Like, just imagine, like, you're just writing a song, you're just learning to write a song, and you write a song about, I love watermelon, and it's just, like, fun. And when you go up to someone who's just learned how to write music, it's like, that song is f***ing garbage, and how dare you share it with anybody?
It's just a nice thing that you play every once in a while because it sounds good, or hang up on your wall because it has pretty colors or whatever.
Yeah, that's how art works. No, that's how art works. Like, if it's just pretty colors, that's the message.
But there are plenty of pretty things. Look outside at the flowers or the clouds in the sky, and you'll find plenty of beautiful things.
And those things are impermanent, and art could be impermanent as well, but it's not expression. It's not the expression of someone's emotions.
About them that
it's the expression
something.
Of, if you believe in Christ, if you believe, not Christ specifically, but if you believe in a divine creator, then yeah, that's God's creation. But that's not personal expression, and oh my God, this is completely a wrong way to look at art.
I know I've written stuff about nature because it stands testament to the power of its creator. He designed it and he created it for our pleasure. How wonderful our God is.
Look at this rock. This rock doesn't give me a message. I'm looking at this rock and I'm like, it's just a bland, boring, round, gray rock. You know what? God just should have kept this to himself. I don't need to look at this rock. He didn't put a special message in this rock.
But anyways, before I head upstairs and get into bed for hopefully a nice long sleep, Let me leave you with the lyrics to this song. It's by Relient K, who's just such an awesome band. Their new CD is amazing. It's full of songs with meaning, songs with more than just pretty pictures and cute catchphrases. But Relient K loves pretty pictures and cute catchphrases.
This is the most incorrect
It's a really
thing.
great message of hope in spite of failure. So here it is when I go down, and they post the lyrics. And then there's some comments, but I'm just going to leave it there.
And whether or not I couldn't even tell from the writing if it has necessarily a Christian theological bent, but it doesn't even matter. If anyone would have this opinion from a religious or completely secular point of view of devaluing other people's worth of their expression because it doesn't mean anything to you, that's garbage. That's just that's just so. It's. I guess. It's got me more in a tizzy because, last week we discover the horrible things that Scott Baio is accused of doing, and I got upset about those, but I didn't get vitriolic about it because we all know it's awful and he's awful. But the point is, something like this is presenting it as, well, this is obviously the right way to do this. You have to always put a message, and just pretty pictures are meaningless. They're presenting it like this is meaningful, and that's what makes me... They're presenting that blog like it's a meaningful lesson, and it absolutely is the wrong lesson and the wrong way to look at other people's personal expression and their art.
Indeed. So the last thing that I had was a Facebook video, but it won't let me open it because I don't have Facebook, so I just sent it to you.
Okay.
And hopefully it actually goes through.
All right.
I did copy and paste the note, which has the actual link, but...
Oh, this was on Facebook. This is just a guitar. This is just a guitar cover.
Actually. Oh, I wasn't sure because I didn't watch it, so... All right, so your turn.
It's nice that they posted to Facebook. Well, this is a song that they have not played a ton, except for the Mmhmm 10 tour. So
sure, because, the audience, they're not going to want to sit around and listen to a 6-minute song, Jenny.
Exactly. I was thinking that. I was like, this would be for me, because I haven't, I don't know, this would sort of be a more fun way to end a show than necessarily Deathbed.
Yes.
If the stark nature
would.
of its message is too much for you to take. So, I forgot one note, actually. I'm back on my notes, and I remembered one thing. So, this song kind of reminds me of this one specific era of the Foo Fighters on their second album, Color in the Shape. It's not that it's specifically, I don't think it's not at all ripping off these songs, but there's a mood and sort of a tone of two songs from that Foo Fighters album that are the slower kind of songs. Jessica's looking confused. It's when I started the song.
I thought the upstairs neighbor was running her water.
So there's this song from this album called Walking After You, and it's not that it's not the same song, but it fires that same neuron in my brain.
I see what you mean.
And then there's this other song.
It sounds very worshipy.
It does. And then there's this other song called February Stars that's a similar tone to me. So it's not that these are actually... It's not that these are absolute... It feels like this song, When I Go Down, could be a third song along with those other two songs to me. It always has felt this way because I liked Foo Fighters when they were first coming out, when Dave Grohl was first creating, the first two Foo Fighters albums. So I knew Color in the Shape really well when I listened to this album when it was new, and when I heard When I Go Down, I was like, oh, this feels like it's off of the Color in the Shape.
So would you say that the colors in the shapes are meaningful?
Yeah, it's like, oh, look at this just meaningless garbage. Look at this meaningless color and this meaningless shape. What does that mean? Look at any album cover. What does this mean? I
actually mean to set you off.
If the cover of Mmhmm was just a painting, would you just be like, ugh, look at that. Look at that meaningless painting. It's just a sunflower.
The cover of Forget and Not Slow Down is a painting.
It is. But if you just saw a painting What is still life? What is a still life painting? It's just painting of fruit in a bowl. Like, what is like a picture, like portraits of people? Is it just meaningless because it's just a person? Like, oh, it's just a pretty picture of some lady. Who cares? Art shouldn't just be about getting chicks.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more. So let's move on to those covers.
That song has meaning. Every song has meaning. Every single piece of creative work in the world has meaning. And that blog post was absolutely 100% incorrect. Like, not debatable, an incorrect way to look at other people's creative expression. So here's Relient K performing this song live in Irvine, California in 2006.
Music got me there, thinking all the I follow.
It's only a 30-second upload of the
They're
song.
putting a different flavor on it
Yeah, it's a
there.
slightly
It sounds a
different
little like
flavor.
something else that I
Yeah.
can't quite name right now.
And it's a bad phone video from 2006. But yeah, this would have been, I was getting to this before I went on another tangent. This would have been a nice show closer, up until Deathbed came out. Or if it's like a festival set or a shorter set and they don't have the time to play all 35 minutes of Deathbed, they could replace this.
Yeah.
But instead, at 10, I guess they closed, and I wish we had been able to go to 10. It's one of the biggest misses that we didn't go to that. They used to, I guess they ended every show on that tour with When I Go Down. So here it is in Irvine, and the last one was in Irvine. This one's in Houston, at the Houston House of Blues, right around your birthday, 2014.
The very thing that I hate more than everything else. The way I'm powerless to dictate my own moods. I've thrown away so many things that could have been much more, and I just pray my problems go away if they're ignored. But that's not the way it works. No, that's not the way it works. When I go down hard.
That's super nice.
Yeah.
And really pretty. And unfortunately, the later half, when the song gets louder, does not sound good on this video.
It reminds me of Flower off Air for Free,
Okay.
especially how they do it live.
And this song could also be on Color, those two, along with those two songs on Color in the Shape. This is like some chilled out Dave Grohl vibes, like earlier chilled out Dave Grohl vibes, before it became like, I'm just the hard rockin' guy.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously Flower like gets really atmospheric and it gets into that do 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 do, but just like that intro part gave me similar vibes.
Gotcha. Well, there are a lot of covers, and we won't do most of them because they're just acoustic guitars, real simple. Some people only do half the song. Some people only do a minute of the more than one person does only a minute of the song. But here's a very important cover for us to play because this is our guest this week.
This is my favorite cover of this song.
It is. This is Zeek Power's cover, and this is only 4 minutes. I did listen to the whole thing, but I guess somewhere a minute got cut out because this one is 4 minutes and 50 seconds.
I'll tell you flat out, it hurts so much to think of this. So from my thoughts I will exclude the very thing that I hate more than everything is. The way I'm powerless to dictate my own moves. I've thrown away so many things that could have been much more, and I just pray my problems go away if they're ignored.
We could sit here and listen to all 5 minutes.
You didn't even
Easily.
get into the chorus.
Let's get into the chorus, and then we'll hear how he did some of the later part of the song.
But that's not the way it works. No, it's not the way it works. When I go down hard, and I take everything I've learned and teach myself some disregard. When I go down, it hurts to hit the bottom, and other things that got me there, I think if only I had fought them.
Super nice.
It's so beautiful.
Before we had our call with Zeek to be on the show, we listened to it, and Jessica was like, "Oh, this could be on the radio."
Yeah.
And I think we told him that in the interview, but we meant it.
Yeah, like his covers of Relient K songs, I'm like, he makes these mainstream. Like
Right.
he turns these into like
He makes them
mainstream radio
vital and
hits.
current.
Yeah, yeah.
And after re-listening, it was after our call with him that I finally actually spent the time with the song, and it was, listening to it back to back to back. I was like, actually, I think this song could have been on the radio at the time as well. Relient K's version. Back then, it could have been on the radio if you cut a minute out and do the radio edit. So I want to find the any control part. This is 3 minutes and 5 seconds in.
If only I had fought down, any control I thought I had just slips right through my hands, while my ever-present conscience shakes its head and reprimands me. Then and there.
Really nice. Yeah. I suggest going and checking out the whole thing. And I'm not just saying that because he's on the episode. But this hopefully you'll be interested in as well. These don't come up all the time, but you always love them.
Ooh.
After this survey on YouTube.
Nice.
It's the chiptune version uploaded by Chiptune Planet, who seem to always have the chiptunes of Relient K. This is only uploaded 6 years ago.
I was unsure if you were going to play me a chiptune, a girl with a very soulful Lana Del Rey voice, or a shipping video.
Right. So this is just one thing over and over, which, I mean, you could argue that the actual song is one sort of cadence for that first 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's on chiptune, it's even more laid bare. I forgot to mention as well, this part really reminds me of that lift in Deathbed. I mean, I know we're listening to the chiptune version right now, but this part towards the end, in the last 2 minutes of When I Go Down, reminds me as we're getting towards, like, John Foreman coming in and, like, the deathbed man's about to die. Like, this really feels like a proto tail end of Deathbed as well. But I like that they kind of take they're kind of taking that sleigh bell thing and bringing it forward. Mm-hmm. Interesting way to interpret a rather complex song, especially since I think a lot of chiptune only has a limited number of channels, like proper chiptune, when you're actually using video game systems to make the sounds as opposed to just using some sort of chiptune program. I don't know. I've never done it. How would I know? So here is your other favorite type of Relient K cover. We're going to start picking on Relient K.
Oh, no.
They're back.
What song is this?
It's When I Go Down. Oh. I play in the street. I make mashed potatoes. I get hit by cars. Those are the Five Iron Frenzy lyrics to that song I played a little bit ago.
I'll tell you
It's nice! We're waiting for our table at Cracker Barrel. Why do you hate picking on Relient K so much? Jessica's going to sleep now.
Way I'm powerless to dictate my own mood. Like as I exhale, I hear your voice.
As I exhale, I sound like this. Jessica who sings like this. It's the Picking on Relient K guy.
I thought you were going to say the Pearl Jam guy, Eddie Vedder.
By the way, the Picking on Relient K album cover does the circle thing, and this is before Air for Free. We were talking about this on our Patreon episode with Alex from Zeitgeist Labs about Jack's mannequin, that I knew this circle, this 4-circle thing goes back to a time with Brian and the band. The 4-circle.
Right.
But it wasn't a big, trademark shift, aesthetic shift for the band like the 3 circles are.
Right.
But the 4-circle thing did exist. So
it's Relient K's trademark move to involve circles.
It is. I remember there used to be a shirt that said Relient K, and then it was 4 circles, and I guess they were green, red, yellow, and blue, if Picking on Relient K is to be believed. I don't think Picking on Relient... No, yeah, Picking on Relient K was from 2007. So the 3 dots thing goes back to the proto thing of the 4 dots, which is much less well known. Anyway, that's it for covers, except for this one. There are like 10 other covers, but we won't bore everybody with them. This one is
rude.
Sort of rather beautiful. This is uploaded by Kamusilka Kavlog. Kamusika Kavlog. And I'm not sure, this appears to be in an Asian country, and he's ridden like a moped up into this wooded area.
Oh, cool.
Right? But then you can hear all kinds of sounds in the background. Like you can hear kids playing, and you can hear like roosters, and you can hear other people nearby. So I think it's like a wooded area, and otherwise off camera, it's like a busy area in whatever Asian country this is. So the cover's nice, but then just the ambiance of like being in nature in somewhere in a busy community somewhere in Asia just struck me as like surprisingly beautiful. So I recommend everyone go check out this video, and I'll play a little bit of it now.
I wonder everything is the way I'm powerless to dictate my words. I could away so many things. It could have been much more, and I just pray the problems go the way of getting ignored. But it's not the way it goes. It's not the way it works. When I go down.
I don't know. It's just
It's
really
really
nice.
pretty.
I wish you could hear the song better, but the video in and of itself is a real mood, and it's interesting, and I recommend everyone go check it out. So I guess the last thing we'll lead off with before we go to our... Well, we also have to rank the song, but I don't know what this is. Here's the only sort of not a ship video, but like a fan type video. There's some video game called The Howls, and it almost looks like some sort of like Sims type thing, but not quite.
Oh, I thought it was going to be like Lovey and what's his name from Gilligan's Island.
Oh yeah, that's right. Those Gilligan's Island characters are called the Howls.
Oh wow,
this is some sort of like this is some sort of emo werewolf video game called The Howls. My first rock on The Howls. We're the Howls. We don't have nothing in common with the Howl. I don't understand. This is apparently some sort of.
Wow.
This is some sort of Sims-like video game.
Wow.
I don't know if it is or if it is The Sims and they have like
It's
a
not The
werewolf
Sims.
pack.
No.
Okay, it's some Sims-like video game where they have a werewolf character who is rocking out in mid-2000s
Wow.
emo clothes and is playing the guitar to this song. Who's it uploaded by?
The Howls, The Howls 135
Nice.
is who uploaded it. Unregistered hypercam too, whatever that means. Oh, he's fallen.
It's a screen. It's a screen.
Werewolf Boys is fallen.
That comes up all the time in these old 2000 videos. Hypercam is like a screen capturing software, and they never used to register it.
They're playing the instruments in this very creepily rendered space. Nice.
Well, Jessica.
Yes.
As we let the howls play us into our interview.
Yes.
How do you rank this song? Do you like it more, the same, or less than before we did the episode?
I think I like it about the same.
Okay.
But I like the Zeek Power cover more.
Nice. Well, I definitely like this song way more. I've finally given it the time that it always deserved. I kind of let it kind of sit at the back of the CD, and I didn't really give it the attention it deserved my whole life. So, even though it's a Bad Friend Thiessen song, I still love this song. So here, now let's now cut. Oh, I can't edit around this because there's music in the background. So let's go to the interview. Zeek Power. There we go. So nice to meet you. We've been fans, and we love your Relient K covers. So a couple of the day I tweeted at you, like your Boomerang cover got like replaced in my YouTube feed. You know, sometimes YouTube's like, hey, you haven't watched this video in a while. I'm like, oh yeah, the Boomerang cover. And I watched it. And then like that moment is when I tweeted at you. I was like, hey, if you ever want to come on the podcast.
No way. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, I still remember that doing that cover. So I'm like just trying to move my laptop so I can see and speak to you at the same time. But like the Boomerang cover was fun, bro. That was like, it feels like it was so far back in another life, but it was awesome.
So Jessica's here. We're both here. I'm the one on camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my wife's here.
What's up, Jess?
Hey.
Yeah, I don't know if you had a chance to check us out, what we're about, but we're married. We live in LA, and we do this podcast about Relient K. We do a different song every week.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been listening. To you guys.
Okay, great.
I have listened in the past, and I definitely was like.
Oh, you have listened in the past?
Yeah. I don't know. I found you guys on Twitter. I feel like you actually tagged me in something like a few years ago, like on Twitter.
Okay.
And like back in 2019 or something.
Right.
And yeah, it was from then on. I've definitely like known about you guys and
great.
Dropped in now and then, had a listen.
Nice.
Awesome.
You know, that's great. We I probably tagged you because we post different covers that we go over from the week before. So I probably posted something of yours that we found that week on whichever week. Yeah. The first one we found was the Boomerang cover because I'm pretty sure that's the first song that it just so happened you did that we did. It's like the earliest one. Yeah. And then
that's cool.
Yeah. And then I kind of waited. It wasn't until today actually that I deliberately went and looked at every Relient K song you've covered. Because before that, I like to even when I figure out pages of people who cover Relient K songs regularly, I like to wait until the search to find it. I don't like to automatically know because then I like to know the week we're going to do the song.
It's like a surprise.
Yeah.
I fully get that. Yeah, man. Like Relient K, I'm pretty sure that I've been running my YouTube channel now for a good few years. But I'm pretty sure the very first cover I ever put up was a Relient K cover. I think it was like back in the day, bro. Like I think I was like 18 or something. Right. And yeah, man, it's been a journey, but they still I'm still listening to them to this day, bro. It's been them. Like I wouldn't say I grew up listening to them because I didn't find them until I was like 17, 18. So it was like the end of my high school years. But I'm pretty sure the first song I ever heard of theirs was what's the first song of Mmhmm? It is
The One I'm Waiting For.
The One I'm Waiting For, man. Yeah, and that's it. And it was the drums that literally just caught me because I grew up playing the drums. Like the drums was my first instrument, and so once I heard like the drums just going crazy and that mad punk rock beat,
Right.
I was like hooked. I didn't even care what the rest of the song was.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
That's a
sick.
great opener.
It
That's
is.
an
man.
amazing album opener. Yeah.
Strong opener. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So we want to learn more about you because, we're familiar with your YouTube covers, and then it turned out like when we discovered your channel, that at the exact same time you were on The Voice Australia. Like I just looked at the times, and well, actually it filmed when it was airing, right? Because we wouldn't be able to have seen it here in America. Okay. So we started in June, and then I think, and that season went from, I looked into the dates. It's like that went from May to August or something. So like,
yeah, man.
we're like, oh, we really like this cover. What else has he done for original music and stuff? And so there was like only one other song on your Spotify at the time. And the information and like articles about you being on The Voice at the time were literally just happening. We're like, oh, he's on The Voice.
Yeah.
That's great. So
yeah, because the voice will happen in 2019 as well. So it was all kind of overlapping at the same time, and then obviously 2020 happened, and everyone got the kind of locked down and stuck in their rooms and stuff. But man, 2019 was a weirdly fun year, but it was it's a bit of a blur. Can't really remember too much that happened, but all for the right reasons. There was just so many like exciting and different experiences that I had along with my wife Naz as well. Like it was just a really cool journey. Like I've never done anything like that before, and then being able to meet different people and learn heaps of different things. It was really cool. So my wife is actually just like, you can't see her, but she's like right here. And she's doing the dumbest dance right now, trying to like turn it off.
Jessica's also right here out of frame, but she's just sitting there listening to you.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
Oh man.
So I want to go back and learn more about you and how you got into music. And you kind of touched on already how when you discovered Relient K and everything, but like you have original music and you still do a lot of covers on your YouTube, and we love all of them. Everything we've heard has been great. Yeah. So we want to find out more about how you sort of got into music and eventually, got into bands like Relient K, started your YouTube channel and all of that.
Yeah, cool, man. I would say music has been probably the most consistent thing in my life since an early age. I grew up in a very like musical family. So my father, he was playing in a band, like, and I just remember being in and around that environment. From as long as I can remember. My dad plays the bass, and like my granddad, his father, he plays like guitar, and my dad's one of 4 kids, and all 4 boys, like they play different instruments type thing. And we all kind of, they grew up playing, like in church and stuff. And then my kind of musical background is quite similar. I grew up in church playing the drums. The drums is my first instrument, like I said before.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just kind of one of those things. But like our family, I guess even like culturally, like when we have like get-togethers and dinners and things like that, music is always the kind of central thing that binds us all together.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like even on a spiritual level, like we grow together, and we get to know each other by like playing and worshiping together as well. And that was the kind of like way that I grew up. And so you either learn how to play or sing,
right,
or you're just you're just so bored for like 5 hours because everyone else is playing and singing. So like that was it. And it's like that for everything, not just music. You hang around those particular people in your life, and it just.
That was our dog. Sorry.
Yo, that's so sick. Sorry. I love dogs. You grow up around those in those circles, and it rubs off on you at some point. And so grew up playing the drums. I was playing the drums from like when I was like 3, 4 years old, and then I was playing in church from like 7 years old, and then I didn't pick up guitar until I was about 16. So around the same time I started listening to bands like Relient K and Falling Up. Man, I'm a massive Falling Up fan. Switchfoot, like all of those kind of. I grew up like my parents back in the day were like real strict on like what I was allowed to listen to like in house. So it's like, yeah, that rock music, but it's like, is it talking about Jesus? So yeah, it was definitely one of those fans back in the day. But so it was always like, I remember going through a phase where I had to like full on convince mom that POD was like a good band. Like showing her Youth of the Nation and being like, my mom's like, we're in the Bible bookstore, like listening to POD, and mom's got the booklet out and she's reading the lyrics as I'm listening to Youth of the Nation. And she's like, it's talking about a kid like dying at a school. Are you serious? Like, and I'm just like, no, mom, I'm serious. It's like a good message and stuff. So anyway, yeah, that's a bit of an idea. Like, I love my parents and the way that they brought me up. I do believe that like the way that they raised me definitely shaped and formed my preferences musically now. But it also like when I was old enough to kind of decide for myself what I wanted to do, they were so chill and like they were just like, yeah, like do your thing, like whatever you want to do.
That's great.
We raised you to this point, and now it's like it's up to you, man. Like go for gold. We still love you regardless. So yeah, I listen to POD like every day now, and it's awesome. So but it is but yeah, so Relient K anyway. Started listening to Relient K when I was 17. And it was around that time I was playing guitar and I was starting to sing. I didn't grow up singing at all.
Wow.
But I'm just starting to wonder like how many stories of Relient K listeners start like this, but it all started with like the end of a relationship.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, like I was like heartbroken and stuff, and you know, all of that sort of thing. I was in my feels, and then I heard The One I'm Waiting For. And yeah, I fell in love with the musicality of it, like just because I love that type of. I love listening to punk rock, and I just love drumming. If it's got a mad beat, I'm in 100%. And but then the more that I started listening to the lyrics, it was actually the lyrics, like Matt Thiessen's writing, that really kept me there, you know. And I just really, I think the thing that I gravitated towards was, I love when a writer. It's almost like he's reading pages out of your own journal. You know what I mean? Like when he's writing and he's describing things that you're literally going through at the time. And for me as an adolescent kid, like I was feeling everything he was, you know, I was picking up everything he was putting down. And that journey is still continuous, man. Like I'm older now. But I feel like coming on to, you know, jumping on the fan bandwagon at that age, and then growing with him and growing with them as they've kind of progressed and they've evolved as a band as well, stylistically and lyrically. I think it's cool. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah. I'm shocked to hear that you didn't start singing until around 17 or so, because you have a great voice. So did you go for any lessons for singing, or is it just something you kind of were able to do maybe because of your family and everyone around you loving music?
Yeah, I have taken lessons since. So I took some lessons for like a year when I was like 20, 21. And that was at the point where I just kind of deciding like I really want to pursue music as more than just like a hobby or as a recreational thing. And I just kind of figured like if I'm serious about it, I want to learn how to do it properly and with proper techniques so that there's longevity in it. Yeah, and it really helped too. Like I actually listened to your, this is going back a bit though, but I remember listening to your Savannah podcast, and then I think you featured like one of my cover of Savannah on that podcast. and I cringed so hard. Because it's so like, oh man, it's just like 17-year-old me just being a rat bag. But yeah, like just listening to the singing and being like, what are you doing? Why are you trying to sound like a breath, like literally just like a breath? Like, but anyway, that's just the journey we're all on. But yeah, singing lessons definitely helped me kind of find my own voice. And because I didn't start singing until later on in my like teenage years. I in hindsight it's easier to recognize, but at the time I was trying to mimic the voices that I liked, so
Okay.
like I definitely, like, if I'm you probably hear it in my accent, but I'm Aussie, and so like
Right.
but we usually sing with like an American accent because predominantly we listen to a lot of what's on the radio, and it's
Gotcha.
genuinely pop. And so but yeah, I was listening to Relient K, and I was listening to Our City. I'm a massive fan of Adam Young as well, and everything he
Okay.
puts out. But yeah, so then I'd be like trying to sing like Matt and Adam, and yeah, it's just not a good thing. But you got to go through those things to find your own voice sometimes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Was it a similar process for eventually writing your own music? Because did you feel like you were copying? I mean, you have songs on Spotify now, and you have some original music on YouTube, and I'm not sure if any of that is newer stuff, but like, what was the process like for eventually learning to create your own music? Were you emulating other styles like you were doing the covers on YouTube, or did you do entirely different kind of music than you have now?
Yeah, definitely, man. Starting out writing, like I started writing around the same time that I started singing, so around that 17-year-old phase. And I think when I first started, I was definitely imitating just the the imagery that the music that I was listening to was projecting. And
Mhm.
I loved the way that Matt specifically, he phrases things, and he has like a cheekiness like to a lot of his even like their earlier lyrics that they were putting out, from like even like back to, obviously, to like two lefts don't make a right, but like it was all that kind of tongue in cheek, but it still hit, like it was still in your feels, and it was emotional, but it was like you could laugh at it at the same time. I really enjoyed that type of stuff.
Yeah.
But then there was also that overly over the top, like angsty stuff that he would put out as well, and you're like, oh, all right, precious, So like, and, being heartbroken when I first started listening, I was definitely like writing a lot of that type of thing, like,
Yeah.
I'll die 1,000 deaths. Like, no, it wasn't that bad, but it was to that extent. But yeah, I've found that over the years, obviously the more that you do it, you start to glean. But collaborating with other people, man, has definitely helped me to refine my writing and figure out like what my voice is and what I want to speak about and what I want to say.
Mhm.
And so yeah, like especially coming off the back of the voice, there's been a growth in like, I guess following and listeners and stuff. So I want to be intentional with what I am saying through my music and just the way that I'm, I guess, like the message that I'm trying to project. I think it's important that the music and the art that we put out as creatives in general is always reflecting the times and is always like honest of like what's going on around us. And that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah, that's great. I have to ask you about the Boomerang cover, which was the first one we discovered, because when we discovered that cover, we were like floored by it because you like totally transformed the sort of beat of the song, or I don't know if it was the beat, but you totally changed it and made it this whole other thing, and we loved it so much, and in some ways we like it more than the regular Boomerang song.
Yeah.
And also it kind of helped us learn to like Boomerang more, because when we came into Collapsible Lung, like we came into this podcast, we were like Collapsible Lung ignorers. We were like, Collapsible Lung's
bro.
over there.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm a long time listener. I know, bro. I know how you feel. I've been listening.
Yeah. And the podcast made me like doing the podcast made me be like, wait, there's good stuff in Collapsible Lung. It's just like the idea that it's Relient K was the sticking point. So but your Boomerang cover like showed that there's the chord of the song that's so fun, and if you just put away like, hey, this doesn't sound like there's something there. So like, and I know there was a collaboration with Black Indie. Was that
Black
his name?
Indie? Yeah, that's my brother. Yeah.
Oh, that's your brother?
Sorry, no. Like,
no, not that. Gotcha.
We're just saying, just black people. We're all related somehow. You know, like.
Gotcha. What was the idea behind that song or that cover? Like, did that come naturally, or did you play around with the song for a while before you got to that? Because we just love that cover and what you were able to do with it. So how did you come? Do you remember how you came to that version? Yeah,
I remember at the time of the recording for Boomerang, like even when Collapsible came out. So Mikhail, who was Black Indie, Mikhail and I, we were living together, and he's obviously got his own music and stuff. His project. He's living in Canada now with his wife and child, but he's still playing full time. So shout out to Mick and the fam. But when we were living together, we would just be jamming in the lounge like all the time, and we would be kind of sharing what each other, the other person was listening to, and we were writing and stuff. So. When Collapsible came out, I was so excited to, honestly, like that RK could put out like a spoken word about daffodils, and I would just be frothing. So, I had it pre-ordered, and then when it finally dropped, like I remember just sitting down, we just like listened to the whole thing, like from top to tail, a bunch of times. And Boomerang was, to be fair, like Collapsible, it was definitely like unlike anything else that they had released in the past, and it was a different feeling to what I was used to. I was expecting like stuff from I was expecting that vibe, and but it grew on me, and Boomerang was definitely one of the songs that really stuck out, just because it was, to me, it felt fun, like it felt really like upbeat and like kind of happy and stuff, and it took some of the essence of what I was used to. And it just kind of brought it, into the current times, I guess. But yeah, we were just jamming it, man. Like, to be honest, there wasn't that much more thought that went into the style of it. The whole like kind of strumming pattern and everything is very kind of like, I remember you guys put it as like Jason Mraz-ish. And we just kind of grew up playing that kind of style, like the island type of music, like reggae kind of vibes, growing up in I'm originally from a beach town in North Queensland, and up there, like that was literally that kind of style. That's just where we lived type thing. And so and whenever I cover songs, especially back then when I was beginning, like I was really just excited to reimagine songs, and I love the idea of a listener hearing, like not being able to pick what it is that you're playing until you start singing and the melody kicks in, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, what? This is a thing. Yeah. And covering Boomerang, that was definitely like that intention. I just wanted to do something completely different, and and just have fun with it. I felt like that style was going to suit the song really well. So I had a really I actually got the video got shared by, I think, Matt Hoops. On his Twitter or something, like a week or two after, because I told like all my friends to like link and tag like them online and stuff.
Nice.
Send you money. Oh, okay. Sorry.
Married life. Gotcha. So we're having you on the When I Go Down episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you did a cover of that as well. We were listening to that today, And that one's also great. That one's amazing. Jessica, you had an observation. Do you remember what you said when we were listening to it?
I don't remember.
Okay,
when you were listening to it.
When we were listening to it, Jessica was like, "You made it. You made it so much even sweeter sounding than the Relient. That first part, which is kind of, I don't know if it's actually minor key, but that first kind of
Yeah, it is.
part, it is minor key. Yeah. So that first minor part, like we felt like you like heightened it even more, where it was like it felt like." I'm not just trying to like be over the top with the compliments or anything, but you were able, the feeling when we were listening to it is like, this feels like it could be on the radio. Like you like brought something out of that song where maybe When I Go Down by Relient K, you could hear it on the radio, but you kind of made it even more current. You know what I mean? You made it feel like a song from this year, as opposed to sometimes I hear When I Go Down and I feel like it's kind of 2000s, but your cover of that song like felt much more current, and I don't even know what exactly you did. If it was just your voice or your choice of how to play it, but and you played it pretty close to the original, but we really loved it. It was really good.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, it's not even much of a question, but
yeah,
I guess the question is yeah.
Yes.
But what do you think of that song? Like, how did you feel about it when you were covering it, or how do you feel about that song overall? Since we already know that you love that Mmhmm was your first Relient K album.
Yeah, I think what I really love about that song is that it starts you out with conflict, and then the whole rest of the song is you being shown like the effects of what has already happened. It's like the aftermath of like the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
But then after all is said and done, I like the final, and Matt does this so well, is that his final like footnotes on the songs are always like, well, not always, but a lot of the time they're always hopeful and optimistic for the future, and like it's almost like his way of being he's cathartically just offloading all of his emotion
right
at you, as if you're the like he's laying on the couch and he's just sharing everything that's just happened, but then he sits up at the end of the song and then he just kind of like self-reflects and he's just like it's gonna be all right. And When I Go Down is one of those songs to me, because it's just the words like of the chorus alone. When I go down hard.
Right.
That's just so simple, but it's so true. And there's so many people, myself included, that can just relate to that. And it doesn't even have to be relationally. It's just mentally, like emotionally, and whatever's going on in life. Sometimes, it's very hard to we try our best to stay above the line of like, I don't know, we like to keep our equilibrium, pretty well balanced,
right,
emotionally and stuff. But when it happens, and we go down hard. And sometimes it takes a moment for us to stop in those situations and then take a step back and just remind ourselves that at the end of it, you give me hope, and hope, it gives me life. You touch my heavy heart, and in the end you make it light. And like, what? That is so beautiful. Like, those words alone are just, and you don't even have to sing it. It feels like he's just writing a letter, and he's writing a letter of remembrance to himself, but he's allowing you to read over his shoulder. And that's why the song, to and particularly when I first heard it, teenage angst and teenage heartbreak is always so funny to look at when you're 30 years old, but in the moment it was a real thing to me. And I'll never deny the feeling that I felt of knowing within myself that it's gonna be okay. And this song was one of the songs that really brought me through the other end, and being better, and not being bitter after everything that I was going through at that time. And yeah, I hope that answers your question.
It definitely does.
Yeah, for sure.
It's so amazing because, like, really, like that, the emotional core of that answer is so many people's story for Relient K. No matter like the surface level aesthetic differences for how people come into Relient K, if they're like more punk or if they're more, Christian contemporary, or if they're more pop and radio, that doesn't really matter. Like, but when Relient K connects to people emotionally, that really is like the core of the story. Like, so like you said, like, so sometimes people learn about them when there's a bad time in their life, and it always gives them hope, and during a breakup or a loss, and like, also the fact that Jessica wanted to say something.
I was gonna say, even like the rawest and darkest of Relient K songs, they're still, you come out of them with a feeling of hope, which is like so amazing how that works.
Absolutely.
And he has written so many songs about kind of like feeling bad or beating himself up or feeling like he's fallen short of something, whether it's spiritual or sometimes it's in a relationship with people, or sometimes it's about how he spends his time, and he kind of like is constantly singing songs of like contriteness and feeling bad, but there's always a hope. It's never just I feel bad and listen to me feel bad. It's like I feel bad, but I'm gonna get through this.
And being that voice for so many other people who don't know how to express that, for themselves. I think that's definitely, like you said, that's the reason why so many people in the past and definitely now are so moved and so connected to Matt Thiessen's writing and his musicality. Even I think a big part too, like I'll compliment his lyrics and stuff forever, but like also musically, man, like this band, their progressions and stuff, and even their chord changes, it's all such a journey, and it really does. Music is just the way that they use music to really portray the emotion that he's trying to share with you. Lyrics are one thing, but I feel like even who uses sleigh bells at the end of a song to make you feel like anything but jolly? You know what I mean? Like, you can't use sleigh bells and not feel good, bro. Like, what the heck? Like, you give me hope, and it's she. It's like, what? Who thinks about that? So I think I really love the way that sonically and also lyrically, this dude, like, When I Go Down is a very good example of how well they get those ideas across in a very, very palpable way.
Gotcha. That's great. Yeah. Have you ever had a chance to see Relient K live?
Yeah,
You did?
I got to see them live twice.
Great.
They came to Australia back in like it would have been like, I feel like my mic is getting lower and lower.
Was it 2011? I'm only guessing because we randomly, when we were talking about K's for Karaoke last time, Jessica found an article from an Australian interview, and then it ended with a list of tour dates.
Oh, wow. Yeah, dude, it actually probably would have been. Like, they came to Australia for it's for like a big youth event here in Brisbane.
I think that's what it was. They talked about it. Yeah. They did like a big youth event, and then they did a tour because they were already there. So I think that was it.
Yeah, man. So they came to Brisbane, which is where I live now, to play along with like Lecrae and like a whole bunch of like the 116 Click. So it was like such a weird combination because you got punk rock and then you just got like full on hip hop.
Right. It
was dope. But yeah, I remember road tripping because we still lived in North Queensland at the time, which is, so from Bowen to where we used to live, it's about a 14 hour drive. And me and two other mates of mine, we're just like, we're still mad Relient K fans. We traveled, we made the trip down, and then we sat in this youth event for what felt like an eternity, waiting for the main event, which was RK, and then they got on and they only played like 5 or 6 songs because the rest of the event had dragged on for so long that they were told they only had like 20 minutes. We were so angry, like the whole crowd. There was like 10,000 people there, like just waiting. And then they played for like 20 minutes, and then
Wow.
they had to get off. It wasn't their choice. They had to, like,
Right.
they basically got dragged off the stage, and we were just so, like, we were so stitched up. We felt just really, really sad. But at the same time, it was dope because yeah, man, we got to see them live. It was this like real surreal experience, because I remember I was about maybe 2 or 3 rows, like standing. I'm a tall dude. I'm like 6'4", and so I'm making so many people angry behind me, but I didn't give a crap. Like, I was just so happy to be in that mosh pit, just blocking everyone's view. But yeah, man, it was dope. So that was the first time I saw them, and then they came back maybe in like 2013, 2014 might be earlier, for a music festival called Easterfest. And they were the headliners there. And at that time it was crazy because my band was actually playing at that festival as well.
Oh, okay.
And so I got to meet Matt Thiessen at their sound check, and Zach Farah from Paramore was like playing for them on drums.
Oh, right.
It was the most weirdest thing ever. It was like, hey man, what's up? And yeah, so I got a photo with Matt and stuff. We got to chat like briefly. If you ever talk to him, don't bring it up because he will not remember. But it was really cool. It was really cool, and it was just it was one of those moments, man. Like, you meet one of your heroes, and I was just really grateful that he was super humble and like approachable and down to talk for for a few minutes, and it was cool. It was really special.
That's great. Do you have any other favorite Relient K music other than maybe the ones we've already talked about and like Feelings On, Forget Not, Slow Down? We talked about Collapsible Lung. We talked about Do you have any like special thoughts about like Forget Not, Slow Down, or Air for Free, or any of the earlier stuff?
I mean, I'm just going through like Spotify again real quick. Because, right. Sorry, can I say Spotify? My bad.
Yeah. We're on Spotify.
Okay, cool. Oh, yeah.
I mean, anyone could be on it. You just start an artist page, and that's what we did, and we uploaded.
Sick. Okay.
As long as they approve you.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Good. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I'm sorry in advance, Jess, because I remember you in one of the episodes you didn't like this song.
Okay.
But literally, like, one of my favorite songs is Deathbed. I'm sorry.
Right. Yep. Everybody loves it. Yeah.
Everybody except me loves it. It's totally okay.
Man,
and I would probably like it more if it wasn't for Jessica, because I do like that song, but I also take on Jessica's anxieties when I listen to the song, and I'm like, oh, I totally, and I'm only like reflecting her anxieties, and I'm like, it would be so much worse if I was actually her listening to this song right now.
Oh man, yeah, man. Look, I'll own it, but I had to say it. It's a masterpiece, man. It's so good, eh? It's just such a journey of it's such a story, dude. Like, crazy. I remember the first time I heard it, I didn't look at the time stamp.
Okay.
Like, I didn't realize it went for like 11 and a half minutes.
Right.
And then at the end of it, I remember I just sat there just like in silence, just processing what just happened. Because I'm like, oh, the dude, spoiler alert, but he dies. He's actually dead. Like, that's crazy. Like, oh my gosh. And then John Foreman singing, what? Like, that's what? Yeah, it's a beautiful song. Anything off, oh my gosh, like Forget Not, Slow Down. I love every song on that album as well. I'm still like, do you guys know why it's not on any streaming platforms? Is that like
I think it's a publishing thing, and I should have asked him at the time, but we had one of the people from Goatee Records on, and he said something that made me realize this must be the cause, but I didn't confirm it with him. Forget Not, Slow Down's the first album after their original contract, right? They signed a contract for 2000, and that contract kind of kept them going up through Burden B-sides.
Yes.
And then it ends, and they take over Mono versus Stereo, and they kind of become like sort of free agents, but they're still kind of under the Sony umbrella overall. But basically, they could they went to Jive Records, which was, I guess, also part of the same parent company as Goatee and everything. And they went to Jive and was like, okay, we want to release this one with you because for whatever marketing or it made sense at the time. But I guess because of that, it must somehow affect that one album because it's the only album that they co-released with Jive Records. So it somehow messes it up across
crazy.
Different streaming. Yeah, that's totally a guess. But Brad Moist did explain that to us about, Jive Records for that one release. So it's got to be something about that.
Yeah. I always thought like it was because Matt didn't want anyone to listen to it. So I was like, I respect that, man.
Because
it's a great piece of music.
It is on Spotify in America now. It wasn't for a while, but it's not on Apple Music here. And we have friends who do a podcast, and they're from Australia, and they were only sort of Relient K fans. Their show's called Punk Goes Pod, and they do the Punk Goes compilation series. And when the first time we did a crossover with them, because Relient K has had 2 songs on those compilations, they were like, what should we listen to? And I was like, oh, you gotta listen to Forget Not Slow Down. I had no idea that it's like not available on streaming in Australia, but it's like, yeah, I think that's the case for a lot of countries.
Yeah, well, I'm looking now. It's definitely still not there. Like, it's a shame, man, because it really is such a good album in my opinion.
Yeah.
Man, like anything on Two Lefts, I just love all of them. My favorite song on Two Lefts is probably Mood Rings. I just love Mood Rings. I remember I think I still got the book somewhere as well.
I
forget what it's called. It's like the last line.
Yeah, complex infrastructure known as the female mind.
That's the one.
According to quote unquote Relient K.
Yeah.
Because we've almost finished reading that book. We read it on Patreon, and
oh my gosh. Yeah, I gotta find it again, fam.
Yeah.
It's there. I bought it on Amazon back in the day. I was like, I need it in my life right now. And yeah, man. I don't know if I learned any valuable things from it, but it was definitely entertaining.
It's kind of like it's so weird because, well, first of all, we learned for sure Relient K didn't have anything to do with it. It was like this guy who's, it says Relient K with Mark Nicholas. Mark Nicholas wrote the book. And then Relient K might have written a couple pages when it actually says they specifically wrote that page. But it's just like talking about like, it's like fan fiction for like school. It's like, when you go to school and one girl's the band geek and one girl's the cool girl and one girl's the rock chick. But like all of the stereotypes, and they call them stereotypes. It's like, here's all the stereotypes of different kinds of girls. So many of them are like off base, and it's clearly someone who's older and wasn't going to high school in 2004.
Yeah.
And it's like
man.
references that are off, but then trying to fit in like, what's your email signature? And I'm like, I guess this is the tail end of when that mattered.
Yeah, man. I think that stopped being relevant like a year before that release was released.
Right.
But yeah, it's definitely funny to look back on. I don't know if it would hold up in the current climate, but it's definitely a bit of history that's worth looking back on and giggling at.
Yeah. And it's still it's still published digitally. So it's not even like totally lost. Like they might not be printing new physical copies, but I looked on e-reader apps and stuff, it's still digitally for sale.
No way. Oh my gosh, man.
Yeah.
I wonder if these guys are making like a lot of money off it or not. So curious. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So like that's definitely, and I also love, like, I think they took a lot, just back in the Blink 182 like heyday, like they had those funny little tracks like Crayons Can Melt Some, like Gibberish, like those kind of things,
right?
Those tracks that Relient K put out as well, all that stuff that just keeps you engaged, man. I just love things like that. They literally take 10 seconds to let you know that they just wasted 10 seconds of your life. That's just
right. I always love that about any kind of band, but I definitely like it about Relient K is the ability to like have fun and goof around in addition to songs that are meaningful. And, we've come across reviews and, different things where people are like, why can't, not just for Relient K, but anybody's like, why can't this band just be serious? Why can't they just be serious? Like, why would you want them to just be serious?
Yeah.
Sometimes I hear that from bands themselves, like Five Iron Frenzy. like because they've done a lot of podcasts and stuff, and it's like every time I hear certain band members like don't like a certain song because it's goofy, I'm like, you're a ska band, you gotta have a fun song. You can have the heavy ones,
play ska.
Yeah. Like having the political songs, having the political songs that sound fun. That's great because then people are like, well, this sounds fun, but it's teaching me something. But then you got to have the fun songs to keep people from getting suspicious.
Legit, that's it. You know, I'm all for the juxtaposition of like making someone feel emotional but dancing at the same time. Like, what? You're like dance crying, like. But yeah, like then you need those songs, man. You need those songs. Like life has got to be like that sometimes. You need moments where you can just sit back and laugh and just smile and not think too serious about everything. It's important. And I think Relient K really, they do well to allow their own personalities come through the music in moments like that. And I respect them for it. It's so sick.
For sure. Well, I think that's a great way to leave off. Is there anything you want to let our listeners know about how to check out your work? You got your YouTube channel. We were watching that today. We were watching some of your original videos, and they're amazing. I don't remember the titles. I don't have the titles memerized yet.
You make them up, bro. Give me some ideas for some new song titles.
Okay.
Just fun. I'm on everything really. Instagram and like obviously YouTube. I post a lot of covers on YouTube because it's just where I get out to have fun.
Gotcha.
But all my originals are on Spotify and iTunes. And keep up to date on like my socials. It's just all my name, Zeek Power.
Okay.
And no pressure. It's all good.
Oh, I just remembered there was this is what we'll leave off on. We were watching, so I'd watched a bunch of your regular music, but I'd never seen any of your voice clips before. And so we watched a couple of performances from that. And there's this one, it's like where you're with Kelly Rowland up on this like platform over like a set of a destroyed with fire. And it's like Earth Song by Michael Jackson, and you have like safety harnesses on your wrists, and you're going back and forth, and it starts raining, and I'm like, this is amazing. And we want to know, like, what was the process for? I have no idea, like, in terms. I definitely have seen singing competition shows, but I have no idea, like, what's the process for something like that happening? Does the producers come to you, or who like comes up with the idea and creates that set decoration? Like, that was so amazing, and it's like fire all around you. Like, what's the story behind that performance?
Yeah, it was intense, man. Like, in all the right ways. So I was a finalist on my season of The Voice. So, and I was on Kelly Rowland's team, obviously. It'd be so funny if they just made you sing with like another coach, like super fun. But anyway, so it was Kelly and I, and Earth Song was like it was that particular episode that was the finale. So that was like the last episode of the season, and so all of the finalists, performed with their coaches, and they had these extravagant sets and stuff, set designs. I'm not even being biased, but I think like our set kind of it was a set. It was legit. And,
I don't know how you would top that. It was amazing.
It was definitely like something that I've never done before or since. It was crazy, but the thought and everything that went into it, I remember so we had like a week's worth of rehearsals and just like preparation before the final episode, and we did a bunch of dress rehearsals for that. We were legit up like a good like 10 to 12 meters off the ground. Like it was like if we were gonna fall, we were gonna fall. And we were like barefoot. They wanted to put us in shoes, like they wanted us to wear shoes, put us in shoes, like lift us up and put us in shoes. They wanted us to wear shoes like on the set, but the actual platform was it was like this, it wasn't styrofoam, but it was like this material that was meant to, you were able to grip onto when it got wet because it was like rain. And so we tried it, I think maybe like with shoes in one dress rehearsal, and it was like hella slippery, bro. Like, yeah. And I'm standing next to Callie, and I remember both of us just like hanging on. And I'm looking at him like, yo, Destiny's Child needs to continue. At some point, like we need to get her down. Like, who am I? But I mean, right here, like slipping, fam. Like, get her down, like real quick. So yeah, we ended up going barefoot, but the whole experience of doing that song in particular was special, man. Yeah, she's crazy, bro. She's and I'm saying, sorry, the way that I compliment people is like, right. I say dumb things like,
yeah, I get it.
When you're so good at something, you make me physically angry and I want to punch a cat. Like that's me complimenting you. Like, you're doing great. Keep doing it. But yeah, so Kelly really took on like, I was really grateful to be able to be on the show for as long as I was, purely just to learn from her. And she really kind of took on like a big sister role off camera as well, and just getting to know her family and stuff. And but then being able to perform on that platform and on that scale was I was very grateful, man.
Yeah.
It was definitely an over the top experience, and it was not everyone can say they were on they stood on a platform many stories up in rain, surrounded by fire, singing with one of Destiny's Children. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I encourage everyone to go check out that video if you haven't. Yeah, and like that should be. I mean, it has millions of views, I think, but it's like this should be more. I guess like there's so many voices in different countries that like I guess we just don't know about the international one necessarily. But yeah, it was an amazing performance. So we were like totally enraptured at that moment.
Yeah. And that was like the last that was the last season before like the pandemic
right
hit. So we kind of asked it. We were kind of asked standing on platforms surrounded by fire and rain.
Right.
Oh my god!
Kind of prescient by mistake.
Yeah. Kind of thinking back, I'm like, maybe we shouldn't have done that performance, man. It was like a sign of the times coming. But anyway, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and
thanks
you. And for the amazing covers and everything. And we still have a couple more that we haven't covered on the show yet. I think one or two. Boxing Day was one. Up and Up's one.
Yeah.
Yo, so,
dude, I think Up and Up was the first. I think that was the first song that I covered on my YouTube.
Okay.
So maybe I'll do an updated one so we can like not go back that far.
Well, I better rip your old one off YouTube before you decide to delete it.
Yeah, legit. Oh my gosh. No, man, I appreciate you guys even considering to have me on the show.
Yeah, well, thank you for
honored.
replying. Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
Massive fan, man. So
thank you. We're fans too. Great, thank you so much.
We just wasted at least an hour